Okay, hey everybody, we are live. Hey, wanted to jump in here just a few minutes early, and looks like people are still logging in. We're not scheduled to start for another 5 minutes, so I'm just gonna get in here early. Wanted to take care of some of the technical difficulties that inevitably happen, and make sure they'll get those all ironed out. Make sure everybody can hear me, see me, and that everything is going well. So we will get started in just about 5 minutes. While we're waiting here, while we're just getting started, we've got about 4 minutes left before we're going to get started. Why don't you guys type it in a chat? Actually, if you can hear me and you can see me, everything sounds and looks good, give me a big old yes in the chat, and we'll get started with that. I just want to make sure that everything's working. Wanted to get in here a few minutes early before we start, so we can make sure that everything's working before the presentation starts at 5 o'clock. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, give me a big yes. We got one yes coming in. Okay, there's a couple more. Awesome. How are you guys? How's it going? Cool. I'm excited to have you guys here. This is going to be so fun. We're going to have a blast, and just, this is going to be really fun. We're going to do this workshop style. I'm going to be answering questions. I'm going to be working with you guys, chatting, going over some business stuff, and we're going to be opening up about some really cool things that we're doing in our business and what's working to get clients in our production companies. That's awesome. Hey, Taylor. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Chris, Kevin, Ryan. How are you guys doing? And anybody else that's in here, it's like we have 14 live so far. Say hey if you haven't yet. Billy, awesome. I'm glad you're excited. Thanks for jumping in. Jose, good to see you, man. Thanks for coming. Taylor's good. Kevin's great. Awesome. Cool. You guys are the best. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So you can't hear me, you can't see me, so we're doing good there. Let's see, what other housekeeping items do we need to do before we start? There's a delay. Oh yeah, just know that there's a little bit of a delay, so your chats will come through throughout the presentation, but sometimes I don't see them for 10 seconds afterwards, so just keep that in mind as we're going. Not a big deal, but we'll kind of do that. Oh yeah, that too. Hey Ryan, Jaylyn, Kenneth, Jason, how you guys doing? Also, if you have any problems connecting to the webinar, if you get problems with the video or the audio or anything, there should be a blue reconnect button somewhere on the screen here, or at least there used to be. They just updated the software, so I'm not sure yet. But take a look around, or you could just refresh the page. That usually sorts out any issues, and then we should be good to go. Okay, looks like we got people signing in. Awesome. Let me talk real quick about questions. Like I mentioned, we're going to be, Kevin says, yes, it's still there. Awesome. And Sarah, thank you. So yeah, click the reconnect button down below if you have any issues. So we're going to be doing this, like I said, workshop style. I want to make this really a really cool program where we can talk to each other. You guys can chat, answer questions. I'm going to be answering your questions throughout the presentation rather than me just standing here and just giving a presentation and just talking for an hour. I want to make this really interactive. So it's going to be really cool. So, but I need you to do me a favor to make this go smoothly. So in here in Webinar Jam, you've got your little chat box, right, that says write your message here. So that is for normal chat, okay? So if you're answering questions, if you're talking to each other, whatever, that's all gonna go in there. If you wanna ask a question, you click on the little speech bubble that's right next to it, to the left of it, and that'll bring up an option to choose to ask a question. So if you're asking a question about what I'm talking about, please use that option. So when you click ask a question, that's actually going to take your question. It's going to put it in a separate list for me on my screen here so that I can see all of the questions because things get kind of crazy with all the chat happening all at the same time. So that way I'll be able to see your questions. And then if I miss anything at the end of the presentation, I'll be able to go through all of those and make sure that I get them all answered. Okay? You guys good? You're okay to do that? Cool, cool, cool. Yes, sorry, my amazing wife just keeps reminding me all these things I need to tell you before we start. So there is going to be a replay of this that I will send you guys. All of you that registered for it, you'll get the replay that you can hang on to forever, and then you guys can you guys can access this later. So just so you know, I will email that out to you after the event's over. Ryan says, how to get clients. That's a great question. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So now that it's 5 o'clock, I guess we can go ahead and get started. Anything else? Are we good to go?
Do you want to just summarize those things real quick? Mostly reconnecting questions.
Yeah, one more thing, just because we have people logging in right now. If you have problems with the feed at all, with video or audio, click the reconnect button down below and you get taken care of. And then one last thing, if you have questions, aside from like regular chat, click the speech bubble next to the chat box and choose ask a question. That way I can see where the questions are and we'll be set. Okay, let's do this. If you guys are excited, give me type of 5 in the chat. I want to just see a ton of like 5s coming in. So if you guys are excited, if you're ready to go for this, if everybody's good to go, you've got your distractions put away, you're excited, ready to go, let's give me a 5 and then that will be the cue to me to go ahead and get started. Okay, lots of 5s coming in. Awesome. Cool, guys. I'm excited to be here with you. And here we go. Let me pull up my slides and then we'll get started. What's that? Who wrote 6? You guys are awesome. Okay, here we go. Let's see. And check if you guys can see this. It should say Business Secrets Workshop on your screen. If you can see that, give me a 7 in the chat. And once I see those 7s coming in, I'm going to start right away. Okay, 7s. All right. Okay, so we're good to go. Let's do this. Awesome. Congratulations, guys, on being here. I'm so excited to do this with you, and this is going to be a lot of fun. Like I mentioned before, we're going to do this like super workshop style. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, be sure to ask them. You know, we're going to chat and interact here and just have a lot of fun. I'm going to teach you a bunch of really cool business ideas here for filmmakers. I wanted to say congrats on being here, first of all, because, you know, I don't think you guys realize like how small of a crowd you are compared to like how many people saw this workshop and didn't sign up for it. Okay. So I actually wanted to put this out here as kind of like a test to see, you know, what people are interested in and what, you know, how many people are willing to like pay something like, you know, just a few bucks to get into a workshop like this and to learn business. And so you guys know, I mean, I sent emails out to almost 20,000 people about this workshop, letting them know about this. And you guys here, you know, there's about 60 of you here, okay, that signed up for this, which is really cool because it gives me an opportunity to like be interactive with you and just make this a little bit different than all my other webinars when we have like hundreds of people on. But just know that like 60 out of 20,000, you guys are already in the 1% because like the top 1% because you were willing to invest in your education, invest in learning about this kind of stuff. Like other people won't even put down even just a few bucks, like 50, 100 bucks or whatever it is to like get into something like this. And that's, you know, that says a lot about you. And I'm just really excited because I know that we're like with the best crowd here and the people who are actually going to take action and make things happen. And you guys are going to see success. So congratulations on being here. This is going to be really fun. And here we go. Here's what we're going to cover today. So the first thing I want to talk about is why most filmmakers are not making money. I don't know if you guys know this, but the average income for freelance filmmakers is very, very low. And we're going to talk about why that is and how to get past that. We're going to talk about one simple mindset shift that will change your business forever. Okay, this is something that is a mindset change that I made that was the moment that I can trace back to when my business started taking off, was just changing the simple psychological, making the simple psychological change in my mind about this. We're going to talk about 5 strategies for getting more clients than you can handle. Most of you have probably read the ebook, the Business Secrets ebook. If you haven't, you can let me know and I'll send you a link to it. We're going to be going in depth into those strategies, how to do them, how to implement them in your business, which is going to be really cool. And why you should raise your rates right now. We're going to talk about pricing. Like, why is it important to charge high prices for your work and what that will do for your business as you do it. And then lastly is how to give your client an experience so that they keep coming back for more. So that'll be really cool. If you guys haven't read the ebook yet, it sounds like some of you haven't. Becca, why don't you go ahead and give them the link so they can go download that. So how to give your client an experience so that they keep coming back and hiring you again and again and again, because there's a lot of important things that go into that. Okay. Real quick, I think you guys know who I am probably, so I'll just skim through this real quick. But this is me when I was a kid. I've been making films since I was really little. That I just like always had a camera in my hand, so my friends and I would make these all the time. Obviously, I don't look like that anymore. This is a little bit more recent picture of me. Still not super recent because now I have a man bun, so I don't quite look like this. But this is last year. Anyway, I started out making films as a kid when I was pretty young and never started doing it like professionally until just a few years ago. And I do want to tell you a little quick story about when things kind of took off for me. There was a moment. This was probably 3 years ago ish. When I was running my business and I was doing filmmaking, but I was also doing a little bit of like music production, some graphic design and things like that. But there was this point when, I thought things were going really well. Like we had done like a really good year where we had made quite a bit of money. And then I was just barely engaged to Becca. We were just about to get married, like ready to start our life together. And I got a letter from the IRS that said that we owed $7,000 in taxes. And I hadn't paid taxes the year before. I wasn't doing quarterly payments back then. And I remember that was like almost everything that I had in my bank account. And it was really scary. Like that was a terrifying moment for me when I realized that like I thought I was doing okay, but then I realized that I was going to have to pay almost all the money that I'd ever made to the government. And it was just like, it was one of those moments for me because like I was so scared because we're just about to get married. I'm going to start a life. We want to have kids, like all that kind of stuff is just like coming down on me. And I'm like, I can't even like run my own business right now. I can't even support us, let alone, kids in the future. And it's like, it's scary. I don't know if you guys have ever had an experience like this, but like it just like, it was a defining moment in my life where a lot of things changed because I realized in that moment that I had to do one of two things. I either had to switch careers entirely and maybe go get like a 9-to-5 job, or I had to figure out a way to do this profitably and not just like barely getting by, but I had to figure out a way to support a family and to live like a comfortable lifestyle as a filmmaker. And if I couldn't figure out how to do that, then I had to go do something else. And that was a really scary thought for me because this was what I wanted to do. Now, fast forward to a few years later. Now, during that, the last few years, I've worked on building a production company called Celadora that you guys have probably heard of, and maybe you've seen our work already. Which now we do over 6 figures a year. We've done, we're doing commercial projects in the $10,000 to $20,000 range for like a single 1-minute video, and things have taken off in the last few years. But like I wanted to share that story because I feel like a lot of people kind of get stuck in that rut where they're like can't figure out how to make money doing this. And the thing is, like, if you can't make money doing this, like this is an expensive industry, you're not going to be able to continue doing it. And so that's why we're here. That's why we're having this conversation and why doing this workshop is because I want you guys to know how to start making money as a filmmaker so that you can continue doing this and living your passion. And then, of course, about a year-ish ago, I started this thing called Cinema Mastery that you guys have heard of, which is an online training program. Who are my Cinema Masters here? Are there anybody that's in Cinema Mastery that's in here? If you are, type in the chat, say, I am a Cinema Master. I just want to see if any of you guys are here. I know there were a few that signed up for this. Ryan says, been there, $8,000 sucks. Yeah, it really does. Abraham sounds pretty much like my own story. Yeah, totally. Like I know like a lot of people have been there. Yeah, we got a few Cinema Masters in here. Awesome, cool. Good to see you guys. These guys are awesome. Like we just have the coolest community of people that are, working together and learning cinematography and learning business together. And it's really awesome. So let's go into it. Okay, that's a little bit of my story. Why most filmmakers don't make money, right? So here's what we're going to talk about. This is going to be, a big part of this presentation is what is like the psychology behind that? Why is that happening? And what can we do to counteract that and like start making money as filmmakers? I don't know if you guys know this, but I have polled my audience. So like my email list and people on Facebook and Instagram and everybody, and like the people that follow what I'm doing multiple times and asked how much they're charging. I don't know if any of you guys have like seen my Messenger bot ads that I've been running recently where you can like type clients and it like sends you messages on Facebook. It's really cool. It's really fun. But in there, like I actually ask you, how much you're charging per job on that chat so that I can learn a little bit about you. And I don't know if you guys know this, but 70% of the audience is charging less than $1,000 per video job, 70%. And this lines up with, the general average, because the average freelance filmmaker actually makes only around $30,000 a year, which, is, you can live off of that, but it's like, not enough to live comfortably and support a family and that kind of thing. So I don't know if you guys realize this, but like this is like a struggle that a lot of filmmakers go through, like figuring out how to make money. And the numbers show that like a lot of people are having trouble charging higher rates for their work. So let's talk about why that is. Why do most filmmakers not make money? Okay. So here are the things that I hear when I ask people, when I talk about business and I ask people, if they're making money or why they're not making money. Here's what the industry is teaching us. It's saying that the film industry is headed downhill, right? People are getting paid less, cameras are getting cheaper, all those kinds of things. I hear that cheap clients and gear are ruining the industry. I mean, you guys know this, like cameras are getting cheaper every single year, and like you can get better and better gear for less. And so like, people with less money are being able to get their hands on more gear. That kind of thing's happening. Clients are getting cheaper. They're not willing to spend money. Nobody wants to pay for video professionals anymore, right? Like nobody in your area will pay for you. And another thing like that I hear all the time is that the market is too saturated and there's not enough work to go around. Okay, there's so many filmmakers, like millions of them in the United States alone. And that saturation, like that competition is hard to work with. How many of you guys feel like one or more of these things is making it difficult for you to make money? I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Let me know in the chat. I don't know, maybe you don't. Okay, there's some responses coming in. Yeah, the market is very saturated. Me, can't deny that. All of that. Yeah, so you guys like also feel that way, that like these things are making it difficult for you to make money. And I know that is like how you feel, because I hear these things all the time. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I want you to know that these things are all excuses. They're absolutely 100% excuses, and they're not real. And I know like this is how you feel, and like, I hate making like bold statements like that, but I want you to know that these are excuses. And that is what we're going to talk about today, is how to get past these excuses, because it's true that our industry is changing. Like we're seeing some of these trends, right? Like cameras are getting cheaper. There are things like that are happening, but these are not reasons why you haven't been successful. And you can't blame them for your success or your lack of success. So if you think that any of these is the reason why your business is failing, I got to tell you that you're wrong. Because you see, people like to cast blame on things that are out of their control. So for example, it would be easier for me to say that nobody wants to pay video professionals than it is to just admit that I'm not good at business and I'm not good at getting those clients, right? Because I used to believe these things too. Like here in Utah, there's kind of this like, I don't know, this like prevailing idea in Utah that like people here are cheap and nobody's willing to pay for things, and it's not a good place to run a business or do freelance or anything. Like people talk about that all the time here. And I used to talk about that that way too. Like I used to believe that. And I would always talk about, how it is here in Utah and you can't do business very well. And it's amazing to me now when I think back on that, like I just kind of laugh about it, because I've gotten to a stage where we are working with clients that are paying us $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to work with us. And like nothing's changed. I'm still in Utah. I'm still working with the same local area. It's just that I've changed the people that I am surrounding myself with. Okay. So if you're feeling like these things are making you not able to make money, then this hopefully is like a message of hope for you that things are going to change. And we're going to talk about that, like how you can break out of that and start working with different people. Because there's this big spectrum. Okay, I know this just looks like a couple of rectangles, but I'm going to explain this. Okay, this is the spectrum that I see out there in the film industry. That you have, this big gray box here in the middle is what most of us are making. The average income for freelance filmmakers, like I said, is around $30,000 a year. Okay, so that is like the big majority of the industry is what everybody's working. Well, there's this little sliver here at the top, this blue box here, which is people like Steven Spielberg who are making $300 million a year. Okay, can you guys believe that? 300 million. How many of you guys would like to make that kind of money, right? And that's, that's incredible, right? But there's such a huge gap between Steven Spielberg, like, those people up there, and like the general majority of the average. And that blue square up there is the goal that everyone in the industry is trying to achieve. And that's why there's so much competition. All of us are down here, like, trying to figure things out, trying to get to that blue square. And you know what? Like, here's what it takes. Steven Spielberg has been in this industry for 4 decades, literally 40 years that he has spent like getting to that point. And the truth is, you could spend 40 years working your way up the ladder to get to this level, but then you like maybe would make it. I can't even guarantee that you spend 40 years that you're going to make it. Like, it's just kind of, you have to be lucky, right? And I know a lot of people that have been in the industry for 40 years and still, are not doing anything significant with the industry. So the thing is, like, I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing that. Like, if it's your goal to work in Hollywood and become a famous director, then that's awesome. Like, go for your dreams, totally. But what I'm getting at is that if you want to start making money now, well, you're in the right place, because that's what we're going to be talking about. That's what we're here to talk about today. How do you make money now before you spend 40 years working on your career to maybe make it in the end, right? Because for every big director out there like Steven Spielberg, there are countless people like you guys and like me that are often going broke trying to support this hobby with passion, right? Because this is an expensive industry and it's an expensive hobby. But it doesn't have to be that way, because it's actually not healthy for you to be charging low rates and to be not making money of this, because you need to support yourself with this, and your clients need the reassurance that your success gives them, so that they know that you're able to do the work for them. And so what I want you to know is that there is a way to make money and to be successful where you are now, or at least make a living while you rise to the top. Okay, so that's what we're here to talk about. All right. Chris is asking, how much is profit out of that fee? I assume you're talking about like our rates for work, like around, if we charge 15,000, usually our profit is anywhere from 50 to 75%, the way we do things, which is amazing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You guys are getting this. Awesome. Okay. So this is the idea. And so there is a way to make money, and that is doing commercial work, right? So let's talk a little bit about commercial work and what commercial work is and why you should be doing it. If you're not already, I'm assuming most of you are. So here's the thing. When I say commercial work, here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about weddings, music videos, commercials, fashion, interviews, those kinds of things. Like anything where you're working directly with a client and they're paying you to produce a product for them, right? So this is different from like feature filmmaking, which is totally different, as far as like the business goes, because usually you're going to be like raising money and getting funding to build a film, or you're doing it on your own dime and then you're trying to sell it later, get it distributed. That's a totally different model. What we're going to be talking about today is commercial work. Because this is the best way to make money as a filmmaker, at least, while you're trying to rise to the top, if that is your goal. Now there's a stigma associated with corporate work or commercial work, right? And you guys have heard this before. When I say that I do corporate work for people, a lot of times they think like training videos or talking head videos, or like, just like event videography, or the kinds of things that people say, oh, well, you just do that just to make money. And it's like, you can't actually enjoy shooting that kind of work, right? So, I hear this a lot, like this kind of thing. And I want you to know that, like, I'm not talking about things that I do, like, that I hate doing, but I do just to make money. If you guys have seen our work and the type of commercial work that we do, you'll know that it's still very cinematic. It's still storytelling. It tells a beautiful story, and it's beautiful, and the cinematography is really nice, and we focus really hard on like making the cinematography beautiful. And so you can still do that with commercial work. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about like selling your soul to the devil to do work that you hate doing just to make money. I'm talking about still learning and honing your skills as a cinematographer, because even if you want to become a feature filmmaker, which is actually my next point, even if you want to be a feature filmmaker, you should be doing this on the side, because it teaches you doing short form commercial content, weddings, even short films or that kind of thing, commercial work, music videos. It teaches you how to tell stories and how to create beautiful films on a smaller scale, which you can then later on scale up and do better in the future. Okay. So even if you are, wanting to work in Hollywood or do that kind of thing, you're probably doing this on the side. If you're not, you should, because it's a way to help fund your life and to, take care of yourself until you can get to the point where you've become recognized as a DP or as a director. Commercial work is hands down the best way to make money as a filmmaker, because You get to control your pricing. You get to control your workflow, how much you make and everything. And the thing is, you can charge whatever you want. Like there's nobody telling you how much you can charge or how much you get because of union rates and because of, we go into all sorts of crazy stuff, which happens on set with these big films. You get to charge whatever you want because you're in charge of your own business and you work with the clients. Okay. And so you can charge really high prices if you want to. Now, the number one response that I get back from people when I tell them that they need to raise their rates or they want to, to charge those high prices, they always say, well, what if I'm not good enough to charge the prices that I want, right? This is the number one doubt that I hear. Like I'll tell people, you need to double your rates. And they say, well, I don't think that I'm good enough to do that, right? Like nobody's going to pay me that much for my work. And here's the truth. And this is kind of now we're getting into the main point of this presentation. And that is you don't have to be good at filmmaking to make money. Okay, now this always raises eyebrows, right? People are like, what are you talking about? How is that possible? You don't have to be good at filmmaking to make money. And here's how I know this, okay? Bill Gates. You guys know who Bill Gates is, right? The guy who started Microsoft computers. Bill Gates is not good at filmmaking, but he has made a lot of money. Okay, so, and I get it, like he's not a filmmaker. He made his money making computers, right? It's a totally different industry, yada, yada, yada. I get that. That's fine. But here's the thing. Here's the really important thing. Bill Gates is also not good at making computers, okay? And that's what he's most known for, right? Do you think that he knows how to build a computer or even like program a computer? He doesn't. He doesn't. You guys know who Elon Musk is, right? The guy who started SpaceX and Tesla. Elon Musk is the leading expert right now in building cars and rocket ships, yet he doesn't know how to do either of those two things. Now, I'm not suggesting here that you switch careers and start making computers or cars or rocket ships. I'm not suggesting that you like start a business where you like hire other people to do other things. But what I want to, like the point that I'm trying to illustrate here is that in most cases, how good you are and how much you make are not as closely correlated as you might think. Okay, let that sink in for a second. How good you are at filmmaking and how much you make as a filmmaker are not as closely correlated as you might think. All right, I've known people who are incredible cinematographers that are still struggling to get by. And I've known people who are honestly, let's say, not that great at cinematography who are making big bucks doing it. Okay, it's just the scales are just totally tipped. And this is true. The things that make you good at cinematography are not the same things that make you good at making money, right? Are you guys getting this? Is this making sense? So what does make you money if it's not cinematography? Well, it's being good at business, okay? Learning business is actually an entirely different skill set that you need to learn aside from cinematography, because as a filmmaker, whether you like it or not, you have to also be a business person. And so this is a totally different skill set. And, I can trace back to in my career when I started actually studying business and sales and marketing, like that was when my business started taking off. And it was one of like the, basic reasons, some of the reasons why I started going from, charging $500 for music videos and stuff to now doing like 1-minute commercials for $15,000, right? So let me illustrate this a little bit here. With some drawings that I made, okay? If I give you two people who are the same skill level at cinematography, right? Okay, we're gonna just kind of show it with these little bars here. And one of them has a background in business, who's really good at business, sales, marketing, and the other one knows nothing about it. Who would make more money? Yeah, the business guy, right? Okay, because he knows business. Now, let's flip this. If I gave you a beginner at cinematography who had business skills, who's really good at business, and then I gave you an expert at cinematography with no business skills or little business skills, who would make more money? The beginner at cinematography, right? The person with the business skills. Now, who would make better looking films? The cinematography expert, right? But he'd be broke. Okay, and this is real. Like this is really how it works. A few years ago, I had this experience, and I'll never forget this. And this was a life-changing moment for me. I was working on my business. Everything was going like pretty well. We were doing stuff for I was like trying to get those $1,000 or $2,000 jobs at the time. We were doing stuff for usually less than that. And I got a text from my father-in-law, who is the president of a company, and he was working with one of his clients. And he sent me a video that they had done. And this company is like a probably billion-dollar company that had hired a guy to create a video for them. And he showed me this video and he said, "Hey, what do you think of this video?" And Becca and I watched it. We looked at it. It was like, the acting was kind of cheesy. The videography was not that great. The lighting was non-existent. It wasn't that great, not very good. And I was like, like we definitely could have done a better job than this, but it's fine. He responded back and he told me something that literally changed my life and really changed my business mentality going forward. He said, they paid $10,000 for this video. And I couldn't believe it, right? I was like, what? How could somebody pay that much money for something that's not even that good that I could have done for a fraction of that price and probably would have put out a better product? Like this changed me when I saw that. I saw that video, I saw what they paid for it, and I started understanding this concept that business and cinematography are not necessarily correlated. Okay. Now, on the flip side of things, the other day, I was listening to this podcast, which, if you guys are in Cinema Mastery, you've already heard about this, but there was this guy who charges up to $50,000 for wedding videos. Like, imagine that, $50,000 just for a single wedding video. So I went and I checked out his work on his website. And to be honest, like his work is not bad. Absolutely. Like, it's good. It's well done. But the thing is, I know a lot of filmmakers who charge just a couple $1,000s for work that is probably as good or better than it. Okay. It wasn't anything mind blowing. It wasn't like it was $50,000 worth of work. It's just, it's not to knock on this guy. He's absolutely brilliant at business. And that's why he's been so successful. So you see, like, if you're trying to be a commercial filmmaker, whether you like it or not, like I said, you also have to be a business person. Yet most of you probably have never put any serious thought into how you run your business. But the truth is, the better you are at business, the better your chances are of making it. So does this mean that you should scrap all of your filmmaking education and just focus on learning business? Absolutely not, because there are reasons that you need to be good at cinematography. So I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Sorry, Kenneth, I'm just reading your question. Let me actually tackle that question at the end of the presentation here, because that's a good question. So let's talk about a little bit like the reasons why you need to focus on cinematography. And this is all we're going to talk about, cinematography for now, and we're going to focus on business for the rest of this presentation. So I like to look at it this way. The desire to make money comes from a need to survive and thrive, right? But the desire to make beautiful films comes from within, right? It's kind of like a head and the heart type of thing, okay? Like I said, remember that what I said was you don't have to be good at filmmaking to make money, but you want to be. Like, this is what got you into this industry in the first place. Let's be honest, you're not studying cinematography to be rich, because if that was all you wanted, if all you wanted was to be rich, there are much better and easier ways to do that. There's another component here, right? You're studying and practicing cinematography, spending hours out of your day grinding, often shooting things for little or no pay, day in and day out, because deep inside of you, there's a passion for cinematography. It's something that you love. It's something that you enjoy, right? So what you really want is to be able to make good money doing what you love, which is why we're here today. Now, there are other payoffs to being good at cinematography when it comes to business, because I believe that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So good is defined only by your potential clients. They're the ones who decide if you're good enough or not. And some are going to think that you are, and some will think that you're not. That's life. And so I think the better that you are at filmmaking, the larger that pool of people who think you're good becomes. And so, yes, being better at cinematography is going to translate to more work. I just think that it's not as closely correlated as we sometimes think it is. There's no invisible price sheet out there that somebody can look at and say that your work is at this level, and then follow it across and look and say, you should charge this much. It's nothing. It has more to do with people's expectations and how much people value the work that you do, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So now that you know that you need to learn business, let's talk a little bit about business. Let me take a drink real quick. To answer your question, Kenneth, real quick, because I think this is a good stopping point. He says, because there's so much talent out there, won't your clients like start to get that, like get more savvy? He says, I feel like I have to have decent work because other people in my market are killing it with their skills. The truth is, and the quick answer to that question is that you feel that way because you are in the filmmaking industry. And so you know what everybody else is doing. The truth is, though, that the majority of your clients and the people that are going to hire you, they don't know who else is in the industry. A lot of times, like, you're the only person they know, or they only know a handful of people. So they won't be able to tell you, like, everybody's really good and you're not. And that's where these clients come from that like end up hiring people that are not that great, and paying them lots of money because the clients aren't filmmakers. They don't look at those films the same way you do. They don't understand the quality the same way you do, and they don't understand the market and the industry the same way you do. And that's the reason why you can still, like, there are people that have not been very good at cinematography and still gotten really high paying jobs doing it, because it's more about like how you give value to the client, and there's value in more than just being good at cinematography. There are other things that go into that. So I hope that helps. Okay, so let's do it. Let's talk about business, right? A lot of filmmakers think that they can just make good work, put it on social media, and that they'll start getting phone calls. Like, how many of you, this is your business model? When you started cinematography, you started doing filmmaking, you just started making stuff and putting it out there and like hoping people would call you, right? This is what I call the hope and pray method, and it doesn't work. This is like what every creative person starts out doing. And you might get a few jobs here and there, but like, if you really want to drive sales in your business and you have to have a strategy for going after clients and acquiring those clients. And if you're getting clients already and you're getting hired a lot, that's a good sign that your prices are too low. So we're going to go over the 5 strategies that are in my ebook. These are like the business secrets, like the 5 of them. We're going to go through them one by one because the ebook just kind of talks about them a little bit. We're actually going to go in depth and talk about how you can implement these and help you to do exactly that. Okay, you guys excited about this? You ready? Okay, let's do this. All right, so let's talk about this. Number 1, the first one is your Dream 100. Now, this is a concept. If you guys have questions about these as we go through them, feel free to ask, and I'll try to answer all of them. This is a concept that's been taught by a lot of different people. It's had a lot of different names. One of the guys that I initially learned this from was a guy named Chet Holmes, who wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine, which is one of my favorite sales books. I'm laughing because you guys are typing 5s and 6s, and that's really funny. So Chet Holmes, like, he's amazing. And he talks about this Dream 100 idea. And the idea here is to create a list of 100 ideal clients that are the type of people that you would bend over backwards to get to work with. Okay, we're talking like the type of clients who have like really good budgets. They give you creative freedom. They allow you to create work that you're proud of. Like, it's just like a dream working with these people. Like, who are those clients? And to create a list of 100 of them that you would just love to work with. Now, they don't have to be huge clients. We're not talking like Disney or Facebook or Apple here. They don't have to be. They could be like in your local area. But like, if you're not at least a little bit scared to reach out to these people, then they're probably not good enough. So you want them to be a little bit over the edge for you, a little bit, people that you would just love to work with. Reese is asking specific or archetypes. I'm talking specific, like you're going to list the names of the businesses that you would like to work with. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You're not going to hear back from most of them. Okay. You're not going to hear back from all of them. And honestly, most of them, you're not going to hear back from, because these are people that are like a little bit untouchable. And if you are hearing back from all of them, that's a good sign that they're not big enough. They're too within your reach. But just getting one of these clients to hire you could completely change your business. Have you guys ever heard of the Pareto principle, which is also known as the 20-80 rule? What it means is that 20% of your work or 20% of your effort is going to produce 80% of your results. It also means that 20% of your clients will produce 80% of your revenue. So if you can get one client like this in your Dream 100 to hire you, that client is going to, and like you're going to charge them properly for that work, you could end up making more on that client than you've made like in the last year working with all of the cheaper clients that you've been working with. Is that making sense how that works? And so when you have like 1 or 2 or 3 of these dream clients that end up hiring you, that's enough to completely change your business forever and just to launch you into success. So once you have that list, and now you understand like why you need to develop a list like that and people that you want to work with. Well, once you have that list, then you're probably wondering, well, how do I reach out to them? And your initial reaction is probably to send like emails or call them or go visit them or that kind of thing. And I'm going to tell you not to do that because, we all know how well cold emails work and cold phone calls. They don't. What you should do, and this is what a lot of professionals teach and a lot of people who teach this concept say to do, is to send them packages. And I'm talking about like physical packages in snail mail, like USPS, send a package. And I'm not talking about sending them flyers or promotions. This is not like advertising to them, but to send them a gift, like something really cool that will make them remember you. Okay. And, when you're doing this, like make sure you know who the decision maker is, because you could waste a lot of time sending packages to people who are not the actual people that are supposed to hire you, if that makes sense. They could be like in the wrong department or that kind of thing. So do your research beforehand so you know who you need to be reaching out to. But like send them real things. This is not, this is one of those things that like, if I were to start over from the beginning, building my business, this is what I would start out doing 100% right off the bat. I haven't done a lot of this just because I kind of learned this concept after my business was already getting to a point where we were doing well. And, I don't necessarily need to bring more clients in right now. However, I have gotten into the habit of doing this regularly over time, as far as like sending gifts to people and giving them things. Like, for example, recently, a year and a half ago, we did a commercial for a hotel called the Stein Eriksen Lodge. That's a luxury hotel here in Utah. It was like a really big job for us at the time, one of the biggest that we've done. And, after we did the job, they gave us a vacation, and my wife and I went and stayed there for 4 nights. And after we stayed there for 4 nights, I like went to the front desk, the concierge, and I asked them like if I could send a note to their marketing manager, the guy who had hired us. And so they gave me like a really nice card in an envelope. And I wrote a handwritten note on it just saying, hey, thanks for having us. We really enjoyed working with you. I hope to be able to work with you again in the future. And I sent that and I gave that to them, and they delivered it to him. Now, so that was just like an idea of like a handwritten note. And now here we are like a year later, and they're hiring us to do a couple more videos. Same thing with another project that happened. And this was just recently. I had a meeting with a guy from Adobe because they have some offices here in Utah. And, he took us to lunch, and we had a really good chat. And in our conversation, we ended up talking about this photo that I had taken in Switzerland of the Matterhorn last summer, which he really loved. He just said it was an amazing photo. He just loved it. He's like, you should sell this, whatever. We were talking about this photo. And so, a few weeks went by after the lunch meeting, and I hadn't heard from him again because he had been interested in hiring us to do some video work for them. I hadn't heard from him again. So what I did is I actually went to this place that prints photos, like really nice photos, and I printed out a giant print of this photo, and I got it framed under glass and everything, like super nice. I autographed it on the back. I just made this really nice thing, and then I went and delivered it to his office at Adobe with a handwritten note that was like written on black paper with a gold or a silver embossed logo on it, and like, in white ink, just like this really cool thing. I wrote this handwritten note, said, hey, thanks, for meeting with us. I hope this, finds a good place in your office or your home. And I sent that off and sent it off to him, and they delivered it to his office. Now, this was still really recent, so like nothing has come of this yet. However, this is the idea, is to be putting things out there like that and giving people gifts, because that's what's going to make people ultimately remember you. And that's the goal with this. You want them to remember you, because most of the people that you network with are not going to be ready to hire you right away. Like a very small percentage of the market out there is like ready to buy from you right now. And so your goal with your marketing and with your promotion, your advertising, everything is just to get people to remember you. Now I know that like when this guy from Adobe needs some video work done, he's going to think of me. And I know that because my photo is hanging in his office or in his home. I don't know where he's put it. But like he's going to remember me over and over and over again because, every time he sees that. Sarah says, wow, that seems so expensive. And I want to address this real quick because it is. It cost me probably $150 to get that thing framed and printed like that. However, if he hires us for a $20,000 job, let's say, then it more than pays for itself. Like it really, yeah, like Kenneth is saying, it's a small investment if I get the gig. It really is. And when you think about it, especially after you've finished a project for somebody, like, even if somebody pays you just a few $100 to do something and you send them a $10 gift, like that's a very small investment, but it will mean the world to them. I mean, it's like huge, right? So this is just an idea. Sarah's asking, what are your favorite gifts? So there's a lot of options out there, things that you can do. One of my favorites is if you go to bond.co, which is bond.co, this is a really good way of sending handwritten notes to people. Now, obviously you can do this like actually writing notes, but your hand's going to get tired after a while if you're sending a lot of them. This is a place, like this is a website where you can go, you can send them your handwriting, a sample of your handwriting. They'll analyze it, and they have a machine that actually takes a pen to paper and writes in your handwriting and will send it to people. Like, it's amazing. It's one of the coolest things. And so I haven't used it yet, but I plan to soon. It's just a way of like, sending something really nice to somebody that, a potential client or something, and you could send it to 100 people at the same time. Like, it's super easy, right? And again, like, that's a little bit expensive, right? It's $5 per, I think it's like $5 per sheet. But like, imagine you sent that out to 100 people, it's going to cost you $500. But if one of those people hires you and pays you 10, 20,000, 30,000 to do a job for them, like, it's more than worth it. Okay. So just a few last notes on this. Whatever you do, these are not ads that you're sending to people. They're not promotions. They're not flyers. You have to, like, this is very important. You're trying to build a relationship with people. You're trying to create, something that will remind them of you, something that makes them feel good inside, makes them feel like you care about them, that kind of thing. That's what's going to produce sales in the future. And yes, this is quite a bit of work doing this, especially if you do it with like actually 100 people. But the thing is, like, honestly, if you can get this right just once, you'll never have to do it again. Like, it really just, this could be the one thing that just takes your business to the next level. So what do you guys think of that? Was that awesome? Was that really cool? Let me know what you thought of that. And if you have any other questions about it before we move on to the next one. Jaylyn mentioned sendoutcards.com, which is another one. I think they send like brownies and stuff too. Like there's some out there where you can send brownies to people. Like, it's really cool. Taylor's all about the fives. Jane is asking, how do you make it not an ad but still promote your services? That's a really good question. And what it comes down to is making it really genuine and really nice. Like when you come across saying like, hey, you should hire me, like it just turns people off immediately. And so what you want to do is, you can talk about what you do, but don't like say, hey, I'm just sending you this card because I want you to hire me. Like send them something nice, something really cool, something they can hang on their wall, something they can put on their desk that they'll remember forever. Just stuff like that. And as you do that, it's like the idea, like I said before, is just to get them to remember you. Like that's really all it is. So that when they are ready to hire a video professional, you're the person they think of. And psychologically, they're going to think that it was their idea to hire you and not that you kind of like forced it upon them, if that makes sense. Great, guys. Jason, would you ever recommend working on retainer for one of those companies? Do you mean like on a monthly or like doing video, like consistently doing videos? Because I do think that's a good option if they're interested in something like that. Cool. Awesome, guys. Okay, let's move on to the second one. I want to make sure that this workshop isn't too long. I don't know how long we're going to end up going. I don't want it to be too long, but I do want to make sure, first and foremost, that I get the information out to you. So even if we do go a little bit long, I think that's more important. Okay, so number 2, work for free. And everybody's initial response is, well, how is working for free going to help me make more money, right? You're losing money doing that, right? Well, there are a few reasons why you should do this. I'm going to talk a little bit about why this is important. The first reason, the biggest reason why you want to do free work, especially when you're starting out, is to build your portfolio. You can do client work and you can do free work, which we refer to as like spec work or passion projects, but you're always going to do your best work when there's no client, right? When you're working for a client, and right now I'm talking about spec work, right? You're not working with a client, you're going out and you're creating something just to put in your portfolio. You're always going to do your best work because you don't have a client looking over your shoulder and like putting pressure on you to fulfill their agenda, right? Because they have things that they need to get done. They're doing marketing, they're doing, whatever. When you're doing spec work like this and you're not working with a client, it gives you the opportunity to have complete creative freedom, complete creative control over the project, and to be able to do your absolute best work and to carry out the vision that you have for that project. Okay, so that's one reason, is building your portfolio that way. The second reason that you want to do free work and do like spec work is because you need your dream 100. These people that you have already reached out to, they need to be able to see your work, and you want to be able to show them your best work. So even more important than like just being able to see work is being able to see work that is the same type of work that they want to have done. So a lot of people, when they go out and do spec jobs, and they're doing like self-funded projects, they will go, and let's say we're doing it for like Adidas. I'll go and I'll look at the last like 5 campaigns that Adidas has done, or their last campaign with like 5 videos, and go and see what their videos look like, and then create the 6th one, right? Create one that feels like it fits in with the rest of those, because that's going to be a lot more powerful. Like when you show that to them, they're going to be able to envision hiring you for that project because it's so similar to what they're going for. I have, like, I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and hired us for a job. And when they do that, when we sit down and meet with them initially, they tell us the specific piece of work that they saw on our website that made them want to hire us. It's always like, almost always, it's one specific piece of work that they saw that said, we want something just like that. So when you can show people something that is exactly what they want, then they're going to be much more likely to hire you. And even better, if you can show them something with their logo on it. So if you go do a spec piece and you know, let's say it's for Adidas, just because I like throwing out big brands. It's for Adidas. You actually build a piece for Adidas. You put Adidas logo on it. And that's something that you can now pitch to Adidas potentially and say, hey, we would love to do something like this for you, or maybe sell it to them. I don't know. But then you can also show it to similar brands who are also going to be able to envision that kind of work for their brand. And Kenneth is saying only work for free if it benefits you in a way other than money, which we're going to talk about in just a second, because there are specific guidelines that I follow when I will or won't do work for free. That's a really good point. So the second reason, okay, yeah, we covered that. So the second reason, besides building your portfolio, is to build relationships with people. Okay, and what this comes down to is doing free work for people who are influencers, people who can actually get you more jobs in the future, and you want to know who those people are. And like that's like one of the criteria for doing free work for somebody is you want to do it for people who are not your potential clients, but who can get you in front of your potential clients. Okay, so some of my best clients and work have come from actually doing free or cheap jobs. Like I remember I did a cheap music video a couple of years ago that was like $400. And somebody hired me to do it, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I needed the money, right? I needed the job. And so I did this music video, but I put everything into it. I made it as good as I could with the resources that I had. And the client was like super happy with it. They loved it. And then 2 months later, they referred me to, this guy referred me to his sister who needed a music video for her daughter. And she ended up paying us $5,000 for this music video, which was the most that I had ever made on a project before. And that all came from doing a cheap job for somebody, like kind of as a favor. Fast forward like a year later, some of you know this already, but that same lady hired us and paid us $15,000 to go out to Australia, to Sydney, and to work for a week out there shooting music videos with her. And it was awesome. It was like one of the coolest experiences. Like my wife and I got to go to Sydney together. So like that all came from doing one of these like free jobs. There's another experience, like I was telling you guys about the Stein Eriksen, the luxury hotel that we did the commercial spot for. That actually came from me doing a free project for a friend of mine who you know, like I believed in him. Like he was a musician that was doing really well and growing really well. And so he was an influencer, right? And so I thought, you know what, like I'm willing to help you out and to do things for you because I know that like you'll be good about introducing me to people and that kind of thing. And that was what happened. We ended up shooting one of his music videos at the Stein Eriksen, and I met their marketing director, and he was really impressed with our work and how we did things. And so he ended up hiring us to do a video. You know, those are examples of like how this has worked. Kenneth is asking, how do you reach out to brands like that? Are you talking about like influencers or people? Maybe clarify for me which brands you're referring to. So going back to like the criteria that I use for doing free work, because I won't just do free jobs for anybody. This is very important that I make sure that I have criteria as far as like when I will or won't do a free job. And it comes down to three things. The first thing is that I need to have creative control. So I will talk to people, like when somebody asks me to do something, whether it's pro bono or if I go to somebody and ask to do something, excuse me, I will tell them, number one, I have to have creative control over the project. Okay. And I know like, I was like, I always tell them I will be willing to take your input and your feedback. Like, I'm a good person to work with. However, because I'm doing this for free, I need to have creative control. Because ultimately I want to be able to put this in my portfolio. And if I can't put it in my portfolio, then there's not a reason to do it, right? And that comes, that brings us to the second point, is that it needs to be something that's going to be good for my portfolio. If I can see the project as something that I would like to have in my portfolio that I can pitch to potential clients, then I'm a lot more likely to do it. If I can't, if it's not something that I'm going to put in my portfolio, like if somebody asked me to do like a talking head video or an interview for free, like I'm never going to do that because I know that it won't go in my portfolio. And so there's no reason for me to do it, if that makes sense. And then the third reason is, will this job get me more work? So is there a potential that it will get me more work? So I'm always looking into that. Like, who am I doing this for? Do they have connections that I want to be connected with, people that I want to network with? Those kinds of things. Is there a potential that this video is going to be put in places that will put me in front of potential clients? And if that's the case, then yes, I'm a lot more likely to do the video. Okay. Yeah. So Kenneth's question was, how do you reach out to brands like that? So when you're doing like, an Adidas video or sending it out to them, yes, I think the packages is a great way to do it. Like it doesn't have to be packages, but you're doing something to get yourself in front of that client, to get them aware of you. And then when they look at your work, your package could include that video and say, hey, here's something I shot. I just wanted you to see it so you can kind of see what we do. No big deal. Or when they look at your portfolio, they see that, just gives them, something to look at that makes like the idea of hiring you feel very real. Just because they're like, he's already done work that's exactly like what we want to do. And so that makes it so much easier for clients. Cool. Great question. So that is, oh yes, last thing about doing work for free. Like I mentioned, if you're going to take on a job, always do your absolute best work. Like if you are taking on a job and you're doing it for free, but it's not something that you're inspired or feel passionate about, and that you don't want to do your best work, then don't do it. It's like you're basically doing something for free for somebody that you're never going to use in your portfolio. You're not getting paid for it. You're not going to get creative control, so it's not going to be fun. And it's just going to suck, honestly. Like, you don't want to do jobs like that. So if you can do your best work, if it's something that you're inspired to do and you feel passionate about, then absolutely do it, because then you can create something that's amazing. But if you're not feeling inspired about it, you're not going to do a good job, which means you're not going to want to put it in your portfolio. And if you do, it's going to create a bad impression of you. So that's really important. And then the last thing is, even if you already have a portfolio of work, I still recommend doing this, because you need to constantly refresh that portfolio. All of the best cinematographers that I know are constantly doing this. Like commercial cinematographers, if you look at a lot of their portfolios, a lot of times 90% of what's in their portfolio is actually spec work that they did for free. That's because their best work ends up coming out of those things, and that's what they want to show off to their potential clients. And I really feel like there's a big difference between people who do this and people who don't, as far as like how successful they are and what kinds of clients they're getting. Cool. That's number 2. What do you guys think? Let me take a drink real quick. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. Let's go on to number 3, unless there's any questions about number 2. Doesn't look like anything's coming in, so let's do it. Number 3 is what I call join the throng. Okay. Taylor, you're cracking me up every time with those 5s. Join the throng, right? Number 3. What this means is be where your clients are. Okay. So now that you have your Dream 100 and you have work to show in your portfolio, the next thing that you need to do is join the throng, or be where your clients are. I'm going to tell a little story about how this works. A few months ago, I went down to this marketing internet marketers conference in Dallas, Texas, and I was mostly there. I was mostly there because I was there to learn about internet marketing and how I can promote Cinema Mastery better and do workshops like this and that kind of thing. But I also knew, as a side note, that I was going to be in a room full of like 5,000 of like my potential clients. Internet marketers are always looking for video. Okay. Any kind of marketer, right? They need video. And so I knew that. And so I kind of like went to the event with that understanding that like I was really there for this purpose, but like I was also going to try and get some clients while I was there. I paid probably $3,000 to be at that event, between the ticket price, my transportation, my flight there, my hotel. everything for like 4 days. I probably paid around $3,000 to be there. But sure enough, the night before the event even started, I ended up networking with a guy who was interested in doing a $20,000 deal with me. This is how this concept works of joining the throng, being where your clients are. When you can get into a place like this or at a conference or an event that is full of like thousands of your potential clients, you're in business. Like that is a great place for you to be. Same thing. Like I recently, a few weeks ago, went to NAB. You guys are familiar with that, like the big video broadcasting show. And they're at a trade show, and I was there to like connect with brands and to meet brands so that I can like get you guys discount codes and like products and stuff like that for Cinema Mastery members and that kind of thing. Well, I was there connecting with brands, and there were a few brands that I actually had emailed a few weeks before the event and never gotten a response back from. And then I met those people, and they were immediately interested in working with me. And I met them, we got to know each other, we talked about working together, and then I emailed them after the show, and like a bunch of these brands, I got emails back immediately. And it just like completely changed everything. Like I don't know, there's this psychological difference that happens when you meet somebody in person and they like realize that you're a real human. And they realize that like, oh, this is a person that I can interact with and potentially do business with, right? So the way this concept works is you need to find out, where are your dream clients going? You've got your dream 100. You know what kinds of clients you're targeting, the people that ideally you would like to work with. Well, where are they congregating? What kind of conferences are they going to? What expos or trade shows do they go to? Like, where do they network? Where do they eat lunch if they're in your local area? Like those kinds of things. And you need to go and be in those places. So like, for example, if you're shooting wedding videos, you need to be at the bridal fair. If you're shooting adventure videos, you need to be at the Outdoors Expo. If you're shooting music videos, like go to concerts at local venues, ask for a press pass from the owner of the venue to shoot video for free, and then shoot that video over to the band. I don't know. Like there's different ways to do this, but like be where your clients are is what I'm saying. It's a really simple concept so that you can get into places that are jam-packed with your potential clients, and then your networking is going to be a lot more effective than going somewhere where they're not, even if this costs money. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. So even if it costs money, like I said, I paid $3,000 to go to that event in Dallas. But like if that ends up turning into a $20,000 job, then again, like more than worth it to have done that, right? So look for places to get in front of your clients. This is such a simple one, but like, it makes sense, right? Find out where your clients are going. Where are they at? What common interests do they have? What are they interested in? What are they talking about? And then go and talk about those things. Go and be in those places so that you can be interacting with them. That's a pretty short one, pretty simple. But if anybody has any questions, let me know before we move on to the next one. How you guys liking this so far? Is this good? I'm getting a lot of really good feedback from you. It sounds like you guys are loving this. Cool. Awesome. Okay, I'm excited. This is going to be good. All right, so let's move on to number 4. If you are having a hard time thinking of events or places where your clients are, you can create one. Okay, and this is what I'm going to call doing a live workshop. And I'll get to the reason why I'm recommending doing a workshop. Okay, so here's how it works. If you can't find an event or a local event or area where your clients are coming together, then it's your job to bring them together and to do this with a live workshop. So here's how you do it. You're going to create an event where your potential clients, your dream clients can come, and they can, come to. You want to create something that is engaging and educational, okay? Something that they can come to, that they can learn about their business. For example, let's say you're trying to network with marketers, okay? People from marketing agencies. And so you do an event that is the 5 things that you need to know as a marketing agency when hiring videography vendors or filmmakers. And you put together this presentation, you invite everybody in to learn about this kind of thing, this topic. And as you're there, you're teaching the topic, you're positioning yourself as an expert in the industry, and they start to relate to you, and they start to get to know you and now trust you because now you're talking about this kind of stuff and giving them information that they need. And you know what? You don't even have to like sell your services. You just need to talk a little bit about what you do as a filmmaker, and you've now built relationships with a whole bunch of people who showed up to your event. Okay, so this is interesting. Like, you're going to invite people to this, like make it a really cool event where there's like dinner, there's refreshments, and then you want to deliver like a powerful presentation that's actually going to give them a lot of value. This is the idea. You want to give them educational value, which will make them more interested in what you do. This is actually something, again, going back to like Chet Holmes, in The Ultimate Sales Machine. If you guys haven't read that book, like it's one of my favorite books on sales, and it's amazing. He talks about this thing called education-based marketing. Okay, using education to market to people and get them interested in what you do, and it works because right off the bat, you're giving them value. You're giving them something that makes them feel instantly indebted to you and interested in you. And then secondly, it positions you as an expert. So if you come across and deliver this powerful presentation about marketing and video marketing and how to do videos, the things that you need to hire, things you need to look for when you're hiring a videographer, now you're positioning yourself as the expert in the industry, somebody that they can look up to and they know like, oh, that guy is smart. He knows his stuff. We'll hire him to do our videos next time, right? And again, just like the last, point, like you're trying to just get people to remember you because most people are not ready to buy right now. And so you want them to remember you and to know who you are so that when they are ready to buy, you're the person that they're thinking of. Now, this is something that you can also do online. A lot of you have probably been through my Cinema Mastery webinar, which is kind of the same thing. I bring people together. I teach cinematography. I teach business techniques. I teach stuff like that. And I'll do it for free. And then, at the end, I'll tell you a little bit about my Cinema Mastery program. And then like without fail, every single time, a bunch of people sign up for it. Okay. And it's the same thing. Like I'm giving value first, and then I'm telling you a little bit about what I do, and then giving people an opportunity to buy. You could look at like this presentation that I'm giving right now is kind of the same thing. Like I'm not going to pitch a product to you at the end because you guys paid to be here. And so I respect that. But the same idea is this idea of like teaching people and giving them value and ideas that is going to help like position you as an expert in the industry, and people start to look at you as an expert and start to want to hire you. I get a lot of emails and a lot of messages from people wanting to hire me to shoot music videos, shoot commercials, that kind of thing, just because they've seen my Facebook ads, they've seen these workshops, they've seen stuff like that, because I'm giving value and I'm positioning myself as an expert in the industry. And so you can do the same thing. Now, I'm not recommending that you do it online because it's actually a lot harder. It requires like web development skills, graphic design, just all of this technology that's a pain in the butt sometimes. But you can do this locally. You can invite your dream clients to it, bring them together, give them some value, teach them some stuff, get to know them, and you will build relationships with tons of potential clients that will probably hire you down the road. Does that all make sense? Any questions about that? Oh yeah, the book that I mentioned was The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes. Becca will type that in there. There's a couple questions here. Jaylyn, how do you interact with these potential clients? So when they show up at the event, you make it like a networking event. I think this is what you're talking about. We were on this point when that came through. You make this like a networking event. Like you bring them in, you give them dinner, you give them food, give them value, let them network with other people. And then you just kind of like at the end of the event, you make your way around the room and like get to know people and talk to them. Like, because you're the presenter and you're the speaker at this event, like they're all going to want to talk to you. Like you're the like the main event. And so, when just at the end, you just start talking to people and networking just like you normally would. And it's awesome. And have them leave with a package too. Yeah, absolutely. Like you could bring gifts. Definitely, like there's any number of ways you could do this, and it's very effective. Very, very effective. Sarah, I don't understand finding out where they eat. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea. Like where are these people? Where can you find them? Because like people who are marketers, like go to lunch occasionally with other marketers. I'm not saying that you like stalk them or anything. It's just, in fact, it's kind of like a joke, but you're just finding out where these people are, where are they congregating, and how can you get there and be at lunch with them, for example. Okay, awesome. So that's number 4. Let's move on to number 5. And this one is an important one and very simple. And this is like all just new technology. This is really things have changed with like the landscape of the internet, and the kind of things that you can do with marketing these days for any type of business, as far as like this goes with running ads and building an email list. So now that you've got your clients and your contacts, you need a way of keeping in touch with them. Like I mentioned to you before, like the idea with all of this is to get people to remember you, right? But over time, like if you don't interact with these people, they're going to forget, and somebody else could come in and say, hey, I also do video, and they could end up hiring that person because now they've forgotten about you. So running Facebook ads or any kind of online ads, it doesn't have to be Facebook ads, and building an email list is a really good way of keeping in touch with those leads, those potential customers, and constantly over time reminding them of who you are and who they can work with. So I'm not going to show you exactly like how to run ads here, because that's its own workshop in a nutshell. But I will tell you that Facebook makes it really easy, like boosting posts or running a quick ad. Like you can Google it and learn it really fast as far as running ads. So let's talk about running ads first, and then we'll talk about the email list. Running ads is going to work really well for keeping awareness high for people that you've already met and creating awareness for those that you don't know. So like I mentioned before, you're keeping the awareness high for people that you've already met, and continuing to engage with them so that you are at the top of mind when they're interested in hiring somebody. And then when it comes to creating awareness, this is actually where it gets really interesting. So like, for example, a few weeks ago, like I mentioned, I was at NAB, and lots of filmmakers there, lots of people in this industry, and I had like actually quite a few people come up to me and say hi, or people there were a few people that I would meet them and I'd say, hey, my name's Eric Thane, and they're like, oh, I've heard of you before, that sounds familiar. Or I would say, my company is Cinema Mastery, and they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, or that I looked familiar. There are a lot of those, and all of that because I'm running Facebook ads online. I would mention to them, I would say, well, you've probably seen my Facebook ads because I run a lot of them. And they're like, oh yeah, you sell that one thing with the course and that kind of stuff. So they recognized me, they remembered me because I looked familiar. Running ads is powerful because it actually gives people a feeling of familiarity that automatically makes you more credible to them. I mean, think about the difference between just like meeting somebody and saying, hey, my name's Eric and I do this thing, that compared to, hey, my name's Eric and I do this thing, and they're like, oh, I've heard of you before. That feeling of familiarity where they feel like they've heard of you before instantly makes you more credible. And so this works on the front end and the back end, right? And you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on ads. Like you can just spend, I personally believe that every business should be spending at least $1 a day, which I think any of you in here could afford that, right? $30 a month. And like, if that gets you a client in 1 month that's going to pay you $500 or $1,000 or $2,000, like it almost pays for itself every single time, just by creating awareness and letting people know who you are. It's not like when you reach out to these dream clients or like people in your area that you want to work with, and you're sending them packages, and they open up that package and they're like, I've heard of this company before. And they probably don't know where. They have no idea where they've heard of you from, but it's probably because they've seen your ads. That instantly gives you more credibility, where people will be like more interested in hiring you, because now you've got like, they've heard of you, right? And it changes everything. So that's like one way to run ads like that way. Even spending $1 a day with a little ad with some text at the top that's kind of like your vision as a company. Maybe you put your reel in as like a video ad, that kind of thing, just as a way to build awareness and to like let people in your local area know who you are. Because you can be very specific, like on Facebook with your advertising. You can target just people in your area. You can target just people who are CEOs or work at marketing agencies or that kind of thing. Jason's asking what type of content, which I think I just answered. Like I would recommend like running your reel or making like a promo video that you can put that like you guys are videographers, you know how to make videos. Make a video for your own company, a video that talks about you and what you do, and that kind of thing. So yeah, that kind of content that you're throwing out there, letting people know. Like for example, for my company, I'd probably put something that says something talking about how cinematic video production is important and how it gets you noticed as a company, with a video reel of some of our work that we've done for other local clients. That kind of thing, like just to show. Create awareness so that when you reach out to people, when you talk to them for the first time, they can say, oh, I've heard of you before, which instantly makes you more credible. Okay. So that's ads. That's as deep as I'm going to go into as far as ads go, but I think it's a really good way of like creating awareness or maintaining awareness for people that you've already met. The second thing is building an email list. And this is actually not in the ebook, but I wanted to add it into the presentation because I think it's equally as important. This is another way to continue awareness of your brand. And I've seen people do this successfully. I do it obviously with Cinema Mastery. You guys have seen, I'm sure, my emails that I send out occasionally. I'm just like keeping you aware of who I am, what I do, so that, if you haven't signed up for Cinema Mastery or any of my products yet, eventually down the road, you may be interested. And this is the thing, like, it's like I said, it's a way to create awareness. I've seen people who who have video production businesses who have done this successfully, where they'll create an email list of all of their clients and potential clients and people that they network with when they get cards. Like every time they network with people, they add them to an email list. And then every time they finish a project, a commercial for somebody, they're sending that out and saying, hey, here's the latest project that we did. Check it out. It did this for the company. It helped them get this kind of ROI or whatever, like just kind of tooting their own horn, talking about like a little bit about what they did. It's a no pressure way of just like keeping people aware of you and what you do. And so I think that's like a really good way of doing it, is just continuing that awareness of your brand and consistently reaching out to people, letting them know what you do. That way, one of those emails might go out 6 months down the road after you meet somebody and it's the right timing for them. And they're like, oh, you know what? We should talk to them and see if they'll do the video for us. Right. So add your past clients, add your potential clients. Every time you meet somebody, like put them on an email list and send emails out occasionally, and make sure those emails are valuable to them, because if not, they're just going to they're just going to unsubscribe. So what you want to do is just, you've got to use email marketing software for this. Don't do it manually, because that is not technically allowed. But you want to give them valuable content. Like this is a place where you can be consistently teaching people. You can tell them, the things that they need to know when they're hiring a videographer, or if you're working with brides, if you're a wedding videographer, like here's the 4 things that you need to think about before your wedding day, or things like that. You're giving them content, you're giving them value, you're giving them ideas, which is going to make them interested in you down the road when they are looking for somebody to do their video work. Last note on this is that sometimes when I talk about email lists, people say, well, email, like people actually open their emails? Like, no way. Like email is not a good way. You should post on Facebook. You should post on Instagram. And email actually, like Facebook has a 1% engagement rate. So that means that like if you have 100 people who like your page on Facebook, you get on average 1 person to engage with that post, which is ridiculous. Like it's just terrible. Instagram is a little bit better. It's like 3 to 6% engagement rate, which is better. But guess what the average open rate is in our industry for emails? 20%. 20% of people will open your email. And that's like, I mean, for some of you that like maybe aren't into marketing that much, that might not sound like very much, but that is huge. Like that is a huge open rate. And if you can get 20%, like that's amazing. To send an email to 100 people and 20 of them read it, that's better than you can get on any social media platform. Okay, so that is running ads. That's number 5 with running ads and building an email list. And we're going to move on to the next thing real quick. Are you guys loving this? Are you seeing how powerful this is and what you can do with your business just by following these 5 things? I think a lot of people like read the ebook and they just kind of skim through it and they're like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. But I think it helps for me to like explain how these things work. And I hope that they're inspiring you and making you think of like a different way to run your business. If you're loving this, give me a 6. Sarah is letting us know we all need to put 6s in there. Let me see a bunch of 6s in there. Let me know that you guys are loving this. And I'm going to get a drink real quick. Okay, lots of 6s. Thanks, guys. And Chris is giving me a 7+. That's awesome. Kenneth is asking, is that 20% rate in the marketing industry or which industry? That 20% rate is, sorry, I should have mentioned this. That 20% rate is in the film media industry. So actually, that was a bad number. I don't remember exactly what the benchmarks are. Like everybody's going to give you a different one, but most of them, I believe, are between 15 and 20%. And that's what you're going to get. I feel like the media industry actually gets a little bit higher open rate. Cool. 6.9999993. Awesome. Yeah, of course, Paul. Awesome. So let's move on. So anyway, hope those are really good for you. We still have a little bit more to go through, so this is going to be good. So if you follow these steps, you guys are understanding like how powerful these are and what you can do with your business with these things. If you follow these things and if you do them, your business should be flooded with clients and contacts. I mean, if you really go and do these things, most of you, like honestly, if I were to compare you to like most people that I give workshops to, most of you are not going to go and do anything about this. You're going to learn all this stuff. It's going to feel great. You're going to feel inspired or whatever. Tomorrow, you're going to wake up in the morning and forget all of it, and you're not going to go do anything. But I'm talking about if you actually do these things, you build out your Dream 100 list, you go contact those clients, you build work, all the 5 things, you're running ads, you're doing email lists, your business should be literally flooded with clients. Like you will have clients coming in right and left. You won't even know what to do with them. You should have built a reputable brand and have quality work to show in your portfolio. And at some point, you're going to eventually be getting more work than you can handle, which is an awesome problem to have. Let me just tell you, like, it's amazing when you can turn down clients because they're not ideal or for whatever reason. So you're going to be getting more work than you can handle. So the next step in growing your business and a really good way of controlling the amount of clients you let in is to raise your prices. So what we're going to talk about right now is pricing, okay? And this is really important. Raising your prices once you've got a lot of clients coming in is going to help you control that flow of clients. I've always told people like having a lot of clients or shooting a lot of videos. In fact, I might be getting ahead of myself, but I just had this thought right now. Getting a lot of videos or doing a lot of shoots is not a good sign of business. It's actually a sign that you are not charging high enough rates for your work and that you don't know how to effectively control the clients that you're getting into your work. Raising your prices is the number one thing that I tell videographers. And for any of you guys that know me well or have worked with me or have done coaching calls or anything, like, you know that I tell people this a lot. Like, hey, you should just raise your rates, right? You should just charge more. And so when I tell people that, like, hey, you should raise your prices, they always ask me, well, how much should I raise them? They want to know how much. And the truth is that it doesn't matter. I don't care how much you raise your prices. I just want you to raise them. The reason why I want you to raise your rates is not so that you can make more money, even though inevitably you will by raising your rates. The reason that I want you to raise your prices is so that you can see that people are willing to pay you more for your work. The idea is to get over the fear of growing your business. Like, too many people are scared of raising their prices, even just a little bit. I remember back when, I was charging a day rate of $600 for my DP work. And I was, doing this like fairly successfully, like things were going well. And I remember I was so scared to raise that rate to $800. Okay. I thought, like, if I raise my rates from $600 to $800, like, I'm going to lose all my clients. Nobody's going to hire me. Nobody else in my area is charging that much. Like, all the other guys that I know that are charging or that are doing similar level work as I am, like, I'd be charging more than them, and that's not fair, and I can't do that kind of thing. Okay. This was all going through my head when I was like thinking about raising my rates just by $200. The truth is, though, that like, when you put 600 and 800 next to each other, yes, you can look at those and say 800 is more than 600. But psychologically, to a potential buyer, there is almost no difference between $600 and $800. I remember working with a wedding videographer once that I was talking to, and he was charging, what was he charging? Like $1,600 for his work. And he was so scared to raise it to $1,800 because he thought he was going to lose all of his clients. And I remember I went to lunch with him and I was like, hey, dude, you need to, like, I want you to raise it to 2,000 right now. Like, immediately, don't even take any work less than 2,000 anymore. And he actually did it. And I saw him a couple of weeks later and he's like, hey, we raised our rates to $2,000. And people are still hiring us. Like, nothing changed. And he couldn't believe it. And it's amazing that, like, we get scared of that. We feel like, we're scared that if we raise our rates even just a little bit, that we're going to lose all of our clients. But in reality, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't actually make that big of a difference. This wedding videographer now is charging like $5,000 or $6,000 for weddings. He and his wife are like traveling all over the US, shooting weddings every weekend. And it's amazing. Like, too many filmmakers are afraid to raise their prices even by just a couple $100 because they think they're going to lose all their clients. And yes, if you start like doubling, tripling, or quadrupling your rates, then you're going to see your clients start going somewhere else. But that's not always a bad thing, right? every time you raise your rates and you give your new rate to a client and they say yes, it raises your standard and it kind of sets the bar higher and higher. So if you're charging $1,200 right now for weddings, raise it to $1,400 and just see what happens. Because once you do that and a client hires you at that new rate, now you've just set a new standard for yourself. Like you're never going to go back to $1,200, right? Because you know that it's possible. And the reason why you're so scared of raising your rates is because you don't believe that it's possible that somebody could pay you more. I would not have imagined or even fathomed a year and a half or 2 years ago that I would ever be charging $15,000 for a 1-minute video. Okay, I never believed that was possible. In fact, I had a friend who was running a production company, and honestly, like I didn't think his work was that great, but I asked him how much they charged, and he said, "We won't touch anything under 1,000, and we try to get jobs that are closer to 10,000." And I couldn't believe it when he told me that. I was like, no way. Like, there's no way you're charging that much. There's nobody in this area that is willing to pay that much for videography. And I just thought, no, that's not even possible. Now it's so funny for me to think back on that experience and how like disbelieving I was, because now I'm at a stage where I'm charging even more than that in the same local area. It's amazing like what happens when you start raising your rates and realizing that people are willing to pay those rates. Then it just changes everything and it just raises your bar higher and higher every time. So honestly, like what a lot of people do when they're thinking about like how they're going to charge for their work is they start looking up the average cost of videography in their area. How many of you guys have ever done that? Like if you Googled that or asked somebody, like, what's the average cost of wedding videos here in this area, right? Well, here's the thing, like, here's what I like to say about that. And that is that if you want to run an average business, then you should charge average prices. But if you really want to learn how to thrive in this business, you need to be comfortable with charging higher rates. You need to become confident and good at charging those higher rates. Don't let your competition set your prices like I did when I didn't want to raise my rates to 800 because my competition was all charging 600. You set your rates, and like I said at the beginning of the presentation, like you can charge whatever you want. You can charge as high as you want. And I guarantee you there are clients out there that will pay that rate. So with that being said, let's go into, here are a few reasons why you should charge higher rates. Let me just make sure there's a few questions here. Reese, your question about posting, responding to work postings on Craigslist. Thumbtack, Mandy, do you recommend any specific venues? I don't actually use any of those. I think there are far more effective ways, like we've been talking about with these like 5 business secrets of getting clients. Like when you use services like that, Craigslist or Thumbtack, that are like crowdsourcing, you're automatically positioning yourself for low price clients, people that are not willing to pay top dollar for your work. I mean, when you're just getting started out, I think is a good way to like just start getting jobs and start getting experience, but your business, you need to move away from that. Kenneth, how do you know when your portfolio is ready for you to reach out to your top 100? It would suck to contact them prematurely when your work is subpar. The way I feel about that is that your work is always going to be subpar. I mean, to you, it always will be. And the truth is like the jobs that you're currently working on are always going to be better than what you have in your portfolio. That's at least how I feel all the time, is that like I never feel like my portfolio is 100% ready to go. But like I try to gauge my portfolio not on how I feel about it, but by the reaction that I get from people on it. So when somebody looks at my portfolio, the kinds of responses that I'm getting from somebody, like that's a better gauge of how good it is than what I feel, because you're your own worst critic, right? So you're always, if you wait till your portfolio is good enough, you'll never do it because it'll never be good enough. And so you should know intuitively, like with the type of portfolio that you have, what types of clients and what level are probably going to be interested in hiring you and the type of work that you do. So I would make those like your dream clients. And again, like, even if you feel like they're out of your reach, if one of them hires you, you're set pretty much. Okay. Bear is asking, how often do you update your rates? Our rates are like pretty consistent in how we do things, because we charge day rates and we charge for gear and crew and everything like that. However, I pretty much for the last year to year and a half have consistently charged a higher price for every client that I've gotten. So like I was talking about, raising your rates and setting the bar higher and higher. Like I remember I first got my first $5,000 client, and then it was a 7,000, then it was 10, and then it was 15. I've been like raising those rates, but that's not to say that I'm raising them unnecessarily and just like charging whatever I can from the client. It's more that I'm actually adding more value. And so when a client comes to me, I say, well, yes, it's going to be 10,000 now. You're also getting, there's more crew, there's more talent, we're doing bigger and bigger projects. So it's kind of like going along with that. But it's gotten to the point where anything under 10,000, we're pretty much just turning down at this point. So you will, you kind of like feel that out as you go and slowly update your rates. It's a process. Like none of this is stuff that you're going to do overnight. It's going to take some time. You're going to work on it and slowly get your rates up and up, higher and higher. Julio says, what about raising your rates to loyal clients you have on a retainer? That's a really good question. I actually did that once, where I had a client on a retainer who we were doing consistent videos for, a couple videos a month with a buddy of mine that I was running a business with. And we actually successfully were able to talk to them and explain to them why we needed to raise our rates. And so we did, and they continued to work with us. I do think that like it can work out, but in a lot of situations, and probably in most situations, you're going to lose that client. And that's part of the process. As you raise your rates, you have to start leaving behind the clients who aren't willing to pay you enough. That's just part of it. And I know it's hard. Like it is a little bit tricky. For me, it was really hard because a lot of my clients were my friends. And so, it's a little bit weird when you're doing work for a few $100 for a friend of yours, and then they come to you and you say, well, no, actually we're charging 10,000. It's like kind of weird. There's a little bit of like a tension there, but like in the end, it's turned out so much better for us because now like, I don't know. This is a whole nother topic on its own, but like I get to be friends with those people and not like business associates. My business is separate from my social life, which is actually a really good position to eventually be in. Jalen, how do you explain to clients you've raised your prices the second time they hire you? Kind of the same thing. Like you want to explain to them the extra value that they're getting for it and why you're charging more. But in reality, like I said, as you raise your rates, you're going to lose clients and you're going to be finding new ones. And so that's just kind of like the process that you go through. Cool. Ryan says, be confident in your work. People think higher is better. We're going to talk about that in a second. This is one of the reasons why you should charge high rates. So let's jump into this. Okay, reasons you should charge higher rates. Number one, you will get better clients. I don't know why this is. I don't really understand this psychologically, and it's kind of annoying to me, but like the absolute worst clients that I've ever worked with have been people that I've done work for free for. And free or little. And that's just like the reality. Like years ago when I was just getting started and I was doing cheap work, like I ended up doing a lot of work for very little pay and for clients that were really picky and annoying and hard to work with. And now that we're charging higher rates, like I'm just not working with those people anymore. Like the clients that we're working with are really nice. They're really good to work with. They have a good budget. They give us creative freedom. That like it just totally changes the landscape when you start charging higher rates. And this is so important. It's going to completely change your clientele when you start commanding those higher rates and the type of people that you're going to work with. I've done so many jobs where I've worked with people that were just terrible. And this is the reason why, going back to, when we talked about doing free work, this is part of the reason why I tell people that I get creative control and that I want to create work that's good for my portfolio and those kinds of things, because that conditions people to understand that, they're getting this for free and that I'm in control. Because when the client feels like they're in control and they're the ones that are going to be telling you what to do, you can get in a really bad situation. And I found that only happens when you're doing cheap or free work. So this is important. Like when you raise your rates, you will actually get better clients who are easy to work with. And I think the reason for this is that when you're charging like $200 or $300 for a video, you're typically working with people who $200 or $300 is a lot of money for them. It's like, more than they want to spend. And so they're going to try and get the absolute most that they can out of that budget, if that makes sense. Now, on the flip side, if you're doing work for $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, you're not working with somebody who $50,000 is a lot for them. You're working with people, probably companies that are making multiple millions or billions a year. And so $50,000 or 30 or even 10 is not a lot of money for them. And that's what makes the difference. When you're working with somebody who doesn't feel like they're bending over backwards to be able to afford you, their entire attitude towards the project changes, and they're willing to let you do your job because it's not as big of a risk for them if if it doesn't go well, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of how that goes. So that's number one. Number two, the more you charge, the more you can help people. And this is a really important one because the more you charge your client, the more resources you have to create a better product for them. We, in our business at Celladora, we charge fairly high rates for our work currently. We'll do $15,000, $20,000 for a job that, has just a handful of crew members. But the thing is, we only do one production per month. So during that month, when a client hires me, I have an entire month dedicated to that client where I am available for phone calls. I am available to, I'm available for phone calls. I respond to their emails quickly. I am happy to go in to meet with them. I'm not like the type of person who's doing 3 shoots a week and is always busy and I can't respond to phone calls or doesn't have time for the client. I'm giving them a better experience and a better product simply because I'm charging them more. So the fact that I can charge them more gives me more resources to be able to do more. For example, on this commercial we're just finishing up right now that we did for a local company here, they paid us $15,000 for it, for a 1-minute commercial. And we actually, Becca and I went to San Diego twice to get this shot. So we went down there once. We drove all the way down to San Diego. We did a location scout. We looked at beaches and tried to find the best place for shooting. And then we drove back. And then I flew out there 2 weeks later to go and shoot. Now, originally, we were planning to drive down there, do the location scout, and shoot at the same time. But things didn't go well. We didn't get the talent that we quite wanted. We weren't able to get the permits that we needed, and all that kind of stuff didn't work out. So I just said, you know what? I'll just fly back in a couple weeks and we'll take care of it then. A flight from Salt Lake City to San Diego, if you book in advance, is $99, which, in the grand scheme of things, compared to the $15,000 budget for this job, is absolutely nothing. And so it's so easy for me to just book a flight and say, I'll come back in 2 weeks and shoot this. So you're seeing how by charging more, I'm able to actually do more for the client and give them a better product because I'm doing that, and to help them more. Number 3 reasons you should charge higher rates is you position yourself as a premium product. Believe it or not, your pricing actually says more about the quality of your product than the quality of your product does. And this is kind of a little bit counterintuitive, but people will make judgments instantly about the quality of your work when they hear your price. Even if your work's not very good, when somebody sees a high price tag associated with work, they will subconsciously believe that there's something about that work that other people must value to be paying that much for, right? It just psychologically makes them think that it is a higher quality product. That's just the way that it works. There are people out there that are more interested in buying the best product than they are in the cheapest product. And when you're doing cheap work and that kind of thing, you kind of start to tend to believe that everybody is a price buyer, what I call a price buyer, people that are just looking for the lowest price. But the truth is, there's no competitive advantage to being the lowest price option on the market. But there is a competitive advantage to being the highest price option on the market, because the highest price will often tell people psychologically that it is the best product. It's the same thing with Mac versus PC. You guys have seen this. Apple computers arguably are twice as much as a PC for the exact same computer, right? But why do we buy Macs? It's that higher price tag that makes it feel like a more premium product. Now, granted, I personally believe that they are better built and that there are things about them that do make them better. But is it enough to justify paying twice as much? Probably not. However, there's a status associated with buying a premium product, and there's there's a psychological thing that happens when you pay a premium price for something that makes it feel good. When I go out to dinner with my wife on our anniversary or something, I want to go to a restaurant that's expensive, right? I'm not going to take her to McDonald's because then I feel cheap. There's status associated with buying high priced products. And when you can position yourself as a premium high priced product, that's really hard to say. You actually it makes people feel good, and you give them status by hiring you, if that makes sense. Okay. These are all kind of really interesting points. Okay, cool. So Abraham, I'm not sure what your question means. Do you usually write the content of the ads of your clients? Will you clarify that for me? Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, believe it or not, there's actually less competition at the top. If you look at like how many videographers out there are shooting $500 videos? So many, like millions, literally, in the United States. Well, how many movie studios out there are shooting $200 million movies? Like 5? Maybe there's like 10, but I don't know, like there's like 5 main ones, right, that are shooting all those movies. So every single movie that anybody wants to do that's going to have that kind of budget, they're going to the same 5 movie studios to have that thing done. There's so much less competition at the top. And this is a little bit kind of difficult to understand as you're, growing and you're coming up as a filmmaker. But the truth is that, most people, like we talked about, the large majority of filmmakers out there, are making on average $30,000 a year, right? Those are the people that are charging less than $1,000 per video, and that's where everybody is. So yes, there are a lot of clients that are looking for work in that price point, but there's also a lot of clients that are looking for work at a higher price point, and there's a lot less competition for that. I've found this. And we'll talk about this in a minute, about how like when clients are looking for somebody in, let's say, a $20,000 price range, and you quote them 500, they're not going to be interested in you because you don't actually charge enough for what they want. And they're going to assume immediately that you're not good enough to do the job that they're looking to have done. So this is, just another one of those, that there is actually less competition at the top. I could go on all day with more reasons why you should charge higher rates, but I thought these were the most important ones that I wanted you to know. And the point that I want to get across here is that no matter how much you do charge for your work, even if it's little, you're going to lose clients. Like I said before, like we're going to talk about this, how you're going to lose clients on both ends of the spectrum. And I'm going to illustrate this in a second. Just want to do a quick break here and take a drink and make sure you guys are keeping up with this and this is all sounding good. Okay, cool. Okay, guys, let's move on. So let me illustrate this. Oh, I forgot one of the points. You get more free time. Okay, this is kind of obvious, right? Like my wife and I, we traveled to 12 different countries last year. We're able to do things together, spend time together. We're not shooting 3 shoots a week, trying to get things done to pay the bills, because we're charging higher rates. And so we don't have to do as much work in order to get to, whatever that number is that we want to make every year. So that makes sense. Awesome, guys. Okay, so let's talk about this pricing spectrum. Right here, this is the spectrum. You've got like low dollar projects on the left, high dollar projects on the right, and right in the middle, this is what you charge. So this could be $500, it could be $50,000, whatever it is that you're charging right now. You are losing clients on both ends of this spectrum. So over here on the left, you've got the people that can't afford you, right? So if you're charging $10,000 for your work, people who are expecting to pay $1,000 are not going to hire you because they can't afford you. That's obvious, right? Well, on the other end of the spectrum, you're also losing clients. So like I was just talking about, if you're charging $1,000 for a wedding video and you've got a client who's expecting to pay $10,000 for a wedding video, and you tell them that it's going to be $1,000, you're probably not going to get that job because they're going to assume that you're not at the level that what they're looking for. I actually had an experience that happened fairly recently, probably last year, with the same thing, where I met this guy at a party. I was at a party with just some friends, little house party, and we're hanging out, just talking to people, having fun. And I met this guy who was an entrepreneur from out in San Francisco, Bay Area. And he was telling me about his business that he had built that I don't remember what it was. We're talking, and I told him that I did video production for companies like his and that kind of thing. And he was really interested. We started talking, just like getting to know each other. It was like the conversation was going really well. And I was feeling like, this could be a really good potential client someday. What happened is he asked me, he's like, well, how much do you guys charge for your work? And at the time I said, it depends on the project, obviously, but most of our projects are anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. And immediately after I said that, the conversation just died completely. Like he just wasn't interested in talking to me anymore. And it was just like, oh, okay, cool. We talked for like a second longer, and it was just like, okay, cool. Good to meet you. We'll see you later. And I couldn't understand what happened. But what he said after I told him that it was 5 to 10,000, he said, "Hey, have you ever heard of Sandwich Video?" And I don't know if you guys have heard of them, but they do like quirky commercials for startups, and they're based out in that area. And I know for a fact that they charge anywhere from $100,000 and up for their work. He's like, yeah, we're maybe interested in working with them. And then like I said, the conversation just totally died. Like he wasn't interested in talking to me anymore. And I know that the reason for that was because his expectation was to pay $100,000 for the work. And because my rates were way lower than his expectation, he just suddenly wasn't interested. He made judgments about our company and the quality and the type of work that we produce because of the price that I gave him. And we lost that job because of that. If I had told him that we charged $100,000 and up for jobs, it would have made him think very differently about us and probably be more interested in getting to know us a little bit better, if that makes sense. So you should see that pricing is all about people's expectations. And this is a really important point to get across. So I want to show you an example of how this works. And I think this is really interesting. How much would you guys expect to pay for these earrings? Let me know in the chat. Like, how much do you think that this pair of earrings would cost? Sorry, just a little bit of a delay. So I'm just waiting for the chat to come. Taylor says 5. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sarah, over 100. Ryan, 30,000. I don't think it's 30,000 probably. Thousands, hundreds, whatever. I don't know women's earrings, and especially don't know Tiffany earrings, but they're probably, at least a few $100s, right? For this pair of earrings. So let's say this pair of earrings cost $500. Well, what if I told you that you could get them for just $100? That would be an awesome deal, right? I mean, like that's like 80% off. If they're $500 and you can get them for 100, that would be a great deal. Do you guys agree that that is a good deal? Some of you probably are just like, no way. But it would be, if you were in the market for $500 earrings, to get them for $100 would be a good deal, right? Well, so that's awesome. But now, how much would you guys expect to pay for these earrings? Yeah, see, now things are changing, right? How much would you pay for these? Okay, so like $5, maybe $10 for these. But what if I told you that you could get them for $100? Is that a good deal? No, it's not a good deal, right? Yeah, you guys are getting this, okay? Because your expectations changed. You see how this worked? This is the exact same pair of earrings. And yet 2 minutes ago, you said $100 was a really good deal, but now you're saying that it's not. This is what I mean when I say that pricing is all about expectations. So you see, you can charge whatever you want for work, and there will be people who are willing to pay that price and people who are not. So if that's the case, why would you not charge more and work less? Here's the thing about pricing and how it works with like how much time you spend and how much and all of this stuff is that you could do 10 videos a month and be super busy all the time and just like constantly shooting and editing videos, have no time for your family or anything, and charge $1,000 a video. And if you're charging little like this, like it's pretty easy to get to the point where you're doing 10 videos a month and you would make $120,000 a year, right? That's pretty good living. But if you think about it this way, you could do one video a month at $10,000 per video. So let's say you raise your rates to 10,000, you lose all your clients, and now you can't get 10 videos a month, but you can get one video a month, and you still end up making the same amount of money in a year. So would you rather work harder and make less, or would you rather charge more and work less and make the same amount of money? I personally would rather charge more and work less. And this is kind of the philosophy that we take in our business and why we charge. Part of the reason why we charge high rates is so that we can work less and actually do more for our clients and have more and just live a better lifestyle. I know so many wedding videographers that are always bragging about how many wedding videos they shot. Like people will say, I shot 30 weddings last year or 50 weddings last year. And I hear that all the time. And it's a very common thing, especially in my local area. The guys here are always talking about how many weddings they shot. And like I mentioned earlier, Like shooting more videos is not a sign of good business. What it means is that your prices are too low and that you don't know how to get better clients. Okay, so is that making sense? That's kind of the last point that I wanted to make here on pricing. You guys are loving those earrings. Awesome. Jay has a question real quick before I move on. Do you give a rate first or ask for your client's budget first? In a lot of cases these days, we're not asking for the budget just because I know which clients I'm talking to that have the right budget for what we're doing. So in a lot of cases, it's just I just kind of throw out what it's going to cost to do the job, and they'll either accept it or they won't. But as you're coming up and as you're working on this and growing your business, especially if you're working with a client where you don't know what they're going to be willing to charge and you're not really clear on what your rates are for what they're trying to do, I think it's a good idea to ask them for their budget and just say, hey, what are you interested in spending on this? Because budget is relative, and so the amount of budget that they give you can determine what you were able to put into the project. Because you can do a project for $1,000 or you can do the same project for $10,000. The $10,000 one would probably turn out better because you have better crew, you have better gear, maybe better cameras, lights, that kind of thing. But ultimately it's the same project, right? And so a lot of times it's good to ask for your client's budget. But I don't like to give people a rate until I've had a chance to talk to them about the project and what they're trying to do. I think that's important, is to know what the project is so that you know what it's going to take, and then you can give them a good rate that's going to work for what they're trying to do. Okay, I hope that answers your question. All right, we're moving on to the very last section of this program. How are you guys loving this? Are you liking it? Is this working out really well for you? And are you seeing how powerful this is? There's a lot of this is just mindset stuff and thinking about things differently. But I think that it's powerful, and it can really make a difference in your business. This completely changed things for you. Give me a bunch of eights. I like eights. Give me some eights in the chat. Let's see those before I move on. The 5s and 6s are already coming in before I said anything. Yeah. Okay, some of you are cooperating. Awesome. Cool, guys. Well, I'm glad you're loving this. Let's move on to this last section here. As I promised you that we were going to talk about, we've talked about pricing. Now, we've talked about getting clients. We've talked about pricing your work. Now that you've got your clients and you've determined a price, the client has hired you. How do you ensure that they enjoy working with you and that they keep coming back for more? And this is the last thing that I want to talk about here that I think is really important. And this is giving your client an experience. Okay. Anytime you go into a project just wanting to make a quick buck, you're going to lose in the end, because that client's not going to come back for you. What I want to talk about here is giving your client an experience, and giving them not just any experience, but a really amazing experience so that they love working with you and that they want to come back again. When you're working with a client, you're not just giving them a final product. The product or the video that you send them is only a small part of the reason why they're hiring you. What you're giving them is an entire experience. And I personally believe that this is far more important than giving them a quality product. Because here's the thing, if you're running your business the right way, you're doing good work, you're working with the right clients, you're charging the right prices, everything's going really well, then honestly, no matter what you do, the client's going to love the final product. Because if they don't, they probably wouldn't have hired you in the first place, because they already know your work. They already know what you're doing. You're doing good work. You're working with clients that are ideal for the type of work that you do, all that kind of thing. Your clients are going to love the final product. If they don't, they probably weren't a good fit for you for right from the beginning, if that makes sense. So really, the thing that's going to separate you from other people is the experience that you give them. That's what's going to determine whether they call you for the next one. Because to be honest, anybody can make a quality video. And that's the easy part, right? And if you are just making quality videos and you have nothing else to set you apart, then you are 100% a commodity, and they can get your service anywhere from anybody. But nobody can be you, because you're unique, and it's you really that the client is hiring. If they like you, then they will hire you again. Does that make sense? So here's some ways to do that, to give your client an experience. And I'm not just talking about being nice and friendly. I'm talking about really going above and beyond and making things so amazing for the client, and just surprising them at every corner. And this has been a big part of our business and helping people to like really enjoy working with us and coming back for more. So number one, and this is an obvious one, but is to be professional always. If you have a meeting with your client, be on time. No, actually be early. If you're on time, you're already fired. Be early for your meeting. Be there 5 minutes early and be prepared for the meeting. Like show people that you care. Show your clients that you care about them and you care about their business by preparing for that meeting so that you know what you're talking about and what you need to cover in the meeting. Be reliable. There's nothing more frustrating than like working with somebody who's not reliable and not getting the stuff done that they need to or not showing up on time. These kinds of things like show your client that you are really invested in them and you're really interested in working with them and doing the job. So just being professional, the way you talk about business, the way you talk about your rates and everything is very professional. You're working together, you're writing professional emails, you're easy to work with. Like there's just so much that goes into this. But just think about it like in every interaction with your client, how can you be professional? Like respond to their emails quickly, call them back, answer your phone, like those kinds of things that create an experience where you are reliable and you're showing them that you care. One more thing that I wanted to say about that before we move on to the second one is like I mentioned, if your client sends you an email, respond immediately, like within the hour and maximum within the hour, but like really within 5 minutes if possible. Like those kinds of things just make people love working with you when you can respond quickly and you have time and you're showing them that they deserve your time. Okay, so that's important. Secondly, be fun. Okay, this is a fun one. Like your clients are humans. Have fun with them. Learn to tell jokes, have conversations about other things. There's so much to be said for learning how to have conversations with people, learning how to talk to people. It's just one of those skills that I feel like we're losing as a society just for a lot of reasons. And so, learn how to have conversations and start conversations with people, learn how to be a good conversationalist and to be fun. While you're on set, like especially if the client is there, take time to tell jokes, have fun, enjoy yourself. This kind of energy and optimism will make your character really magnetic and it will make them like you, which is ultimately what we want to do. Okay. Number 3, go above and beyond. There's not a lot that I need to say about this. It's kind of obvious, like just under promise, over deliver. You guys have heard that before. So when your client asks you when a project is going to be done, tell them 2 weeks and have it delivered in a week. Never the opposite. That they won't call you back if you do that. So go above and beyond, like always make things better than what you promised. And always, like I mentioned before, we try to think of ways to surprise our clients at every corner so that they're just getting an experience every single time that's like just things that they weren't expecting. Not only are they getting a quality product, not only are we fun to work with and we're professional, but we keep doing things for them that are just above and beyond and making their money go further, if that makes sense. It's kind of like we talked about with the gifts earlier, where when you give somebody a gift like that, like it might only cost you $10, but it means the world to them. Like it just makes such a big difference getting something like that for your clients. Let me give you an example of this. It's something that we're doing right now. We just finished up this project for a commercial client that we're doing, which is a really beautiful 1-minute lifestyle spot. And there's a lot of really pretty imagery in it. There's a voiceover with a script that's really nice. And we spent a lot of time handcrafting that to make it really beautiful. Well, we just finished the project. We sent it to them. They loved the project. They're so excited about it. And I was thinking about like ways that I could say thank you to the client, which actually is something that we're going to talk about in just a minute, but ways that I could say thank you. And I thought, what'd be really cool is if I went to a press building and I got a book printed that was of the video. So what I did is I took like a bunch of the still frames, and we shot this on Red, so they're all like 5K full resolution frames. I took those, I put them together into a book. I designed this thing really nice with typography and everything with the script in the book into this little pamphlet. It's like a 30-page pamphlet. There's like one line on each page. And I'm putting this together and I just sent it off to get it printed to give to them as a gift to say thank you for hiring us. And I just like, I haven't given it to them yet and I haven't seen the response yet, but that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's little things like that they're not going to expect, that are just above and beyond where you're thinking, where they're like, wow, that was really cool or nice of them to do that. And this is going to show a lot, about your character and help them to want to hire you again. Okay. Number 4, deliver. When you deliver with power. What I mean by this is that when you're giving your client the final product, this is a creation that you've put a lot of time and energy into it. So don't just shoot them the final product in an email, like just sending it off to them and saying, okay, here's the video, you can download it here. Like nothing says that you don't care more about what you just created than doing something like that. I mean, at a minimum, upload the video to Vimeo, put a password on it, like show that this is a precious object that you're giving them. Or if you want to be really cool, you could invite them to a theater room to view the video with you to kind of see it. Like things like that. If you show them you care about the product, then they're going to care more about it and subconsciously will perceive it as a higher quality. This is really important. On the last project that we did, when I'm sending drafts to the client, if I'm sending them like a first draft to get their feedback on it, I will never send them the video as a file to download, because I think just psychologically, it shows that I'm just like able to, hand them something that's unfinished. And I'm not willing to do that. And I want to show that I'm not willing to do that. I'm showing them that I care about it, which in turn makes them care about it. And so usually when I'm sending drafts to them, I'll upload them to Vimeo and put a password on them so they know that it's protected, it's not public, it's safe for them. You can use services like frame.io where they can give feedback, things like that, like show that there's, some care put into this. And then when I'm sending the final product to the client, a lot of times I don't just shoot them a file. What I'll do is I will shoot them multiple files. So they'll show them like, here's your web file, here's your ProRes file, here's your 4K, your HD file. And then a lot of times I'll give them like a folder full of stills from the shoot. Like here's some stills that you can use on your website. Creating a package, creating a gift kind of around this product just shows them like this is a product that I put a lot of time and energy into it. If I just hand it to somebody, like what am I saying about it? But instead of just handing it to them, like I like to package it together and to create something that's powerful and that shows them how much I care about this thing that I made for them. And I think that's really important. Okay. Number 5, and this is the very last point that I wanted to make, is to say thank you. Like I talked about, like have a way of saying thank you to your clients. You can send a package to them, give them a gift, do a handwritten note. You can be creative like this. Like I mentioned with making that book for this client, I'm really excited to see like how they react to that. Just think of a creative way to say thanks. There's a psychological thing that happens when you do something for somebody and then you say thank you for letting me do that thing for you. That just like makes people feel indebted to you, and it works really well. So like, for example, if you went over to somebody's house unexpectedly and just mowed their lawn, and then you told them, thank you for letting me come mow your lawn, it just turns on this thing inside of people that just makes them so happy, and psychologically will make them I don't know what it is, but it will make them like you. And so this is kind of that same thing at work. It's a little bit different here because obviously they're paying you to do the product. So it's a little bit different, but I think it still works the same way. At the end of your project, if you're doing everything correctly and all this kind of stuff, your client should be saying, thank you for doing this for us. We are so happy with the product. And for you to say that back and say, no, thank you for allowing us to come. We loved working with you. That kind of thing can be powerful. So think of a gift that you can give them. Think of a product or something that you can build or create that will just say, hey, thanks for hiring us on to do this project. We really enjoyed working with you. If you hated working with them, then you don't have to do this. But if you did and you want them to hire you again, thank you so much. We enjoyed working with you. We're really looking forward to the next one. Have a great one. That kind of thing. Okay. All right. My voice is about to go out, so we're going to start wrapping up here. But this is how to give your client an experience. And once again, like these are so important because these are ways that you can go above and beyond and make it so that the client wants to hire you again. This is what makes you different from other people out there. Because like I said, anybody can create a quality video. Anybody can make something like that. That is 100% a commodity. But when you can do these types of things and be professional and fun and go above and beyond and say thank you and all this kind of stuff, that creates an experience for the client that is going to make them keep coming back again and again and hire you again and again. Awesome. What do you guys think of that? Was that helpful for you? And how's this going? Are you feeling how powerful this is? And now we're winding down. Awesome. I'm so glad that you guys, Chris says it's worth the money I paid for sure. I hope so. Like I tried to make this, this webinar really affordable. Like that's kind of like one of my things. I try to make, I wanted to make the price for this just like stupid, basically, just like so good that it was, I wanted to deliver a lot of powerful stuff to you guys. So I really hope that you're feeling that. Awesome. Good. I'm glad that you guys are loving this. Cool. So, let's see. Chris had a question. I will answer that in just a minute. Cool, guys. Great. So anyway, with that, like, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for being here. And this has been really cool. It's just a fun workshop for me to deliver this kind of information because this is different from a lot of the teaching that I've done in the past. But I think this is like super valuable for people and very helpful as far as like starting a business and learning the business side of filmmaking. So thank you for being here and for listening to me deliver this presentation. I've been going on 2 hours now. And so I think that, you guys are probably all sick of my voice, but I appreciate you being here and, being in this presentation. This has been a lot of fun. I really hope that this workshop has been incredibly valuable for you. And I hope it's been inspiring and that you're now thinking of a different way of running your business that is a lot more powerful and effective, more so than just creating work and putting it out there and hoping that people call, but actually thinking about the business side of things and how you're going about acquiring clients, how you're pricing your work, and being very proactive and deliberate about how you run your business. These strategies that I shared today are literally exactly what I feel like have gotten me to where I am today and are continuing to allow me to grow my business bigger than ever. And I know they can do the same for you. So if you enjoyed this presentation, please send me an email. Seriously, I want all of you to send me an email and let me know your thoughts. If you liked it, send me a glowing review. I love reading those. If you didn't, or if there's anything about it that you didn't enjoy, let me know. I want to hear those. It's eric@cinemamastery.com. I love hearing from you guys, and I want to know which parts helped you the most, or which parts were the most valuable. So anyway, thanks again for being here. And, now we're going to go ahead and jump into a Q&A session. I'll stick around for as long as I need to answer your questions. And then I want to make sure that I can get around to all those. Okay. Let me, are you typing the email in the chat?
Yeah.
I'm going to change the screen. So you want to?
Yeah, I'm going to remove this.
Okay. Yeah. So guys, send me an email. Let me know what you thought. I love hearing from you guys. And plus, like, I'm going to use those reviews, hopefully as testimonials later for other people who are interested in this. So let's jump into the questions and we'll get those answered. Let's see. I'm going to go back to, once again, guys, click on that speech bubble right there and choose ask a question. That way I can see all of them in this list and it makes it way easier for me. Jaylyn says, do you give a rate first or ask for your client's budget? Oh, no, sorry. We already answered that one.
Do you require deposit? A sample of rates.
Okay, Jason, sorry. Do you have a sample of what a price breakdown and rates typically look like for you? So if you are in the Cinema Mastery, I don't know your last name, so I don't know who you are. In Cinema Mastery, I actually have that as part of it. I go through my entire business workflow and how to work with clients, how I break down my rates into line items, how I create all of that kind of stuff. And what it comes down to is basically, in Cinema Mastery, I show off all of that, but I will tell you that I do break things down into line items as far as what everything is going to cost. So I'll take like my day rate, my producer's day rate, a DP's day rate, a crew, like whoever, all those day rates plus gear, cameras, lights, locations, talent, all of those things. I just add them all up together and then deliver that to the client. And I say, this is what it's going to cost to produce this project for you. So that's kind of how that works. Okay. Becca says that you are in Cinema Mastery, so you can check that out in there. But yeah, awesome. Chris, do you require a deposit for the work before you start? Yes, absolutely. So this is something I started doing, at the very beginning. It's just like, especially before you have a contract or, really like serious things like that. It's a really good way just asking for 50% up front, a really good way of like creating insurance and making sure that you get paid for your project. Like the last thing you want is somebody hiring you to do something and then not paying you in the end because they didn't like it or for whatever reason. When you take a 50% deposit, like you're just weeding out the people who are potentially not going to pay you. Because if they're even the type of person that like maybe wouldn't pay you, they won't pay you the deposit. And so that's like, it's a good way of doing that. We now, like, we still require a deposit. We take 50% up front, and that's 50% of our estimate. So we always start out our projects with an estimate. We say, I think this is going to cost around $15,000. And so we'll take $7,500 as a deposit. And then at the end of the project, we add up all the costs and whatever it costs to create the project. And then we just bill the rest of it at the end. So yeah, I do think that's a good idea. But we also do have a contract that has some terms as far as like the deposit goes and how it's in a lot of cases non-refundable and all that stuff like that. So that's important. Okay, good question. Jason, I'm moving to a new city, no contacts at all. Where would you recommend I start in getting my name out there? The first thing that I would say is don't burn your contacts with where you're at currently. I heard somebody say something once that was really interesting. They said it was like how to move your business without losing all your clients. And the advice was don't tell your clients that you're moving. Especially when you get into like proper rates for your work and you're charging properly, it like a flight doesn't cost that much. And so it's really easy. Like that's one of the, like if I were to leave Utah and want to work with a Utah client, number one, technology makes that really easy to have like meetings and stuff over the internet. And then number two, like a flight from wherever I am to Utah is going to be one of the cheapest parts of the entire production, if that makes sense. So the first thing I would say is don't burn, bridges with the contacts that you already have in your area, because you can still continue to work with them and come back and do that. Now, as far as like getting your name out there in the new city, everything that we talked about today, like this all applies to you. You're going to start, reaching out to, like, create a list of dream clients in your new city, people that you want to work with, and start reaching out to them. Do live workshops, like just do things to get people to know you. There's another company here in Utah that actually did this really well. They just barely started their business. Video production company just barely started it, and they started doing these events where they're trying to do video production for startups, right? So they do these events where they would invite a ton of startups from the area, and they would highlight like one of their products. So one of the startups could come and present about their product and tell people about it. At least I think this is how it goes. I didn't actually ever go to one, but they would tell them about their product, and all the other startups would come and network and meet people. And then they were there as like the hosts of this event and would let people know about them. It's like what I'm talking about with this live workshop. Like it's the same thing. Like it's just such a good way to start meeting people and networking right off the bat. And they were really successful with it. Like they started doing jobs right off the bat as soon as they started. So, I would recommend doing something like that for sure. Kevin, what advice would you give a weekend freelancer who has a 9-to-5 that wants to make this their main job? Right now I do weddings, but would love to do commercial work. Okay. So Kevin, first of all, I do consider weddings commercial work, but you're probably saying, you want to do extra commercials, and that's great. My advice would be, like, you're in a really good position because when you have a full-time job like that, it takes away a lot of the risk of running a business, right? Because you've got a job that's actually bringing your income in. And so you don't have to make money as a filmmaker. And so that allows you to actually take bigger risks, and which means that you can actually spend more time developing your work, developing your portfolio, getting better at what you do. And then from there, also charging higher rates and turning down a lot more clients in search of those higher rates. Because you can take those risks, which is a really good position for you to be in. Now, the downside of the position that you're in for most people is that when you have a job like that, number one, you're limited on time. But number two, people that have a job that aren't doing this full time to make their living are typically not as motivated as people that are. Because when your life is on the line, when your ability to like live in a house is on the line, it's a good motivator. It gets you to work. And so when people have a good job, that kind of thing. Like it makes it a little bit difficult. However, if you can keep yourself accountable and motivated to like get work done and to be constantly reaching out to clients and charging high rates, you're actually in a really good position that's going to help you to do that. So does that make sense? Hopefully that helps answer your question. Julio, as a freelancer, do you think it's smart to shoot videos for multiple genres or focus on just one, like only shooting commercial fitness videos or shooting fitness and fashion and real estate? That's a really good question. So I think yes and no. I think starting out, you're probably going to do more than just one, just because you kind of want to open yourself up to more possibilities. But I do think that as you grow and your ultimate goal should be to niche down and to focus on one genre or one niche, and to be good at that one thing. So as we've grown as a company, we've started niching down not only on like the type of videos that we shoot, but like the length of videos we shoot or what types of cameras we shoot them on. Those kinds of things. Like I used to be open to that. When a client would come to me, I'd say, you know what, you could pay this much to get a C100, you could pay this much to get an A7S, or this much to get a Red. And, you know, I used to do that because I wanted to open up myself to different budgets and different possibilities there. Eventually it got to the point where I was like, no, you have to pay for us to have a Red. Because that's just what we shoot on. And so slowly over time, we've started kind of niching down and doing things. You know, there was a point where I said, you know what, I'm not going to do anything over 3 minutes anymore, 3 or 4 minutes. So we don't shoot anything that's over like the length of a music video. And so we started like specializing in commercials and music videos, short form content. And even especially lately, we're not even doing a lot of music videos anymore. It's just a lot of commercial work. And I've just realized like I'm finding out where, like what we're best at and where we can really thrive, and just trying to become like really good at that one thing. We're talking about like 1 minute, like 60 to 90 second commercial spots, lifestyle spots, usually lifestyle or fitness, and just be really good at that one thing, which I think is really important eventually. But like I said, you know, you're going to start out by doing more stuff and taking more jobs because you need the work. And then eventually just kind of make that your goal to get to that point. To give you an idea, just so you know, like we still occasionally do other jobs that are things that are not necessarily like ideal jobs for us, because like sometimes they pay well. And so we'll do those, but like we don't put them in our portfolio. We don't talk about them. We don't share them with anybody. It's just kind of like, you know, maybe a way to build a relationship or make some money on the side or that kind of thing. So that's kind of my thought on that. Cool. Okay. So, what are some of your favorite ways to invite people to workshop events? So a Dream 100 package would be a really good way of doing that. I'm a big believer in like handwritten notes. Like who doesn't get excited to get a package in the mail or to get a letter, like, especially when it's a real letter? If it's junk mail, right, you're just going to throw it away. But like sending a handwritten note, like hand addressed to somebody and inviting them to an event, they're going to feel really special and probably be very likely to show up to your event. So I think that's a really great way to do it. You know, you maybe use like that bond.co video or website that I told you about, to just like send out $5 handwritten notes, or just write them yourself, you know, if you don't want to spend the money. And especially like if it's not a lot of people, that should be easy. Just write them yourself, write these handwritten notes, or send them a package, or send them, you know, something to invite them. At the very least, you could email them and let them know about it, but email is so impersonal. I just think you're going to get a lot better response if you send like a real letter. Jalen, will you have other workshops similar to this one? But even more information. So was this not enough information for you? We've been going for 2 hours. No, that's totally cool. So a lot of this, I know you're in Cinema Mastery, and so there's a lot of this, a lot of other stuff in Cinema Mastery, and I'm going to be adding eventually a lot more business stuff into Cinema Mastery. But honestly, like I don't think there's a lot more. Like, yes, there is more as far as like running a business and everything, and I could talk for hours about this. What I wanted to give you in this workshop is at least like the main points and the best stuff, like the things that have made the biggest difference in my career over the last couple of years in growing our business. And so hopefully there's that. But since you're in Cinema Mastery, like Cinema Mastery members are going to be getting basically everything that I put out there. So you can stay tuned for that. There's going to be a lot of new content coming to the course there. Cool. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions before we sign off? I'll give you a little bit to maybe chime in with a couple more questions. We'll take one or two more, and then my voice is getting tired, so I probably need to wrap up here. Jose says, is there a good resource to learn how to break down and price a project? Yeah, so like I said earlier, answering somebody else's question, like we do talk about that in Cinema Mastery. I go through like the entire breakdown of how I work with the clients and how I put together estimates and quotes and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that, but again, when it comes down to it, it's just a matter of adding up your costs, like your expenses, what it's actually going to cost to produce the project, and then delivering that to the client. Cool. All right. Okay, I'll give you just another few seconds to ask any more questions, and if not, we will we'll sign off here. Jason, you're welcome. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And thanks again, guys, for being here. This has been a lot of fun for me, and I like I said earlier, I really hope this has been inspiring and helpful for you guys to really run your business and take control of how you do that. Do you recommend partnering with other videographers or photographers? Yes, absolutely. Like networking with people, making friends. Eventually, when you get to a point when you're creating bigger projects, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. Like you need to be building your network of other filmmakers and motion graphics artists and composers and DP crew, like everybody, so that you have that pool to pull from, especially when you're doing bigger projects and you need that help. Good question. Chris, have you ever gone over on an estimate? Yes, I absolutely have. My advice on that is just to always be in communication with your client. So usually I try to bid really high. So I'll give them a really high estimate that's higher than what I actually think it's going to be. It's another one of those under promise, over deliver things. And so sometimes like it will go up, and usually it's because the client asks us to do something that's going to cost a little bit more than what we had initially talked about. And I just always try to be very upfront with them and communicate with them and say, yes, I can absolutely do that. It's going to be this much more in order for me to do that. That way, when I'm sending the final invoice to them, they're not like freaking out because it's way more than they thought it was going to be. Matt, now that you've created your successful business, do you still create videos for pure joy and fun? Real quick, like, let me make a comment on that. Like, I don't want to say that like I have been successful and I'm like done, you know, like we're still growing and everything like that too, and getting higher and higher paying jobs. Like, yeah, we've reached a certain amount of success, but I think that like there's still a lot of room for growth for us. However, I do still create videos for pure joy and fun. Yes. So we do passion projects occasionally. We'll do spec stuff. Like occasionally I'll take on pro bono jobs. Like I'm working on a pro bono job right now that is a really cool fitness spot that I think is going to be really fun. It's also going to be good for our portfolio, and like it's going to be shown to a lot of people. So there's, you know, some business reasons for doing that. But when it came down to it, it was just one that I wanted to do. And my personal goal as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a filmmaker is eventually like, I want to be able to get to the point where I can make films just because I love making films and not because I need the money to be able to make them, if that makes sense. I love the idea of traveling and shooting. Honestly, like, you know, on my bucket list, I really would love to go swim with whales and shoot videos about whales. You gonna come with me? Like that's just like one of those things. I would love to travel, and I've done a little bit of that, and I've tried to do as much as I can. But you know, maybe someday down the road, I'll be able to do that like full time. Sarah, Becca, what do you do? Well, I'll just answer it real quick. Becca helps out with a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff as far as doing our accounting and taking care of like support emails and stuff like that. And she helps out a lot, and in the past has done a lot of help out on set and still does quite a bit. So she'll come on set and she just helps me like set up the camera, get things ready, she'll set up lights, that kind of thing. Since she is expecting right now our first child, those kinds of things are starting to slow down a little bit, which is totally fine. And I've started hiring producers to come help out on set and other like grips and crew members. So, but she's just kind of there supporting me and, you know, doing whatever she needs to do to help out to make everything go smoothly and to keep me organized. That's a big one, just because I am a creative type. I am not very organized, and she is not so creative and like hyper organized. And so it works really well together. Cool. If you can't handle a project, do you recommend outsourcing work to another videographer if you're already booked or it's not your specialty? So we actually like recommend, so anytime a project comes in that like doesn't have the budget or is something that we don't want to do for any reason, we will just recommend another videographer that can do it for cheaper. Or if we're already booked or not available. Usually if we're already booked, like we'll try to, just schedule another date to do it. Cause that's better because then we keep the client. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that like there are younger filmmakers, let's say, who I have recommended work to, like from clients who couldn't afford us. And in a lot of cases, those filmmakers have turned around and recommended us work from people that like were expecting something that's a bigger production than what they feel like they can handle. And so it kind of goes both ways. Like you treat people well, they'll treat you well back. Jalen, what do you use for your estimates or invoicing, templates or software? Once again, this is all in Cinema Mastery in the 8th video. But yes, I use BlinkBid for estimates and QuickBooks for invoicing. So works out. Okay, I think that's all the questions I can handle. My voice is getting really tired. I don't know if you guys can tell, and I'm getting tired. So we're going to go ahead and sign off here. Once again, I know I've said it already, but I want to say it again. Thank you for being here. This has been awesome. I really hope that this was beneficial for you guys and worth your time and your money, and that it's inspired you to run your business in a whole new way. Once again, like it says here on the screen, please, please, please send me an email at eric@cinemamastery.com. I want to hear what you guys thought. What were your favorite parts, or if there's anything you didn't like, let me know that too. But I'm getting a really good response from you guys. So it sounds like you're really loving this. So that's awesome. Thanks again so much. Sarah, yes, blinkbid.com and QuickBooks for invoicing. In fact, we do all of our accounting in QuickBooks. So I'll let Becca write that in there quick before we sign off. But yeah, thanks guys for being here, and we will, I guess we'll be in touch. We good?
Yeah, I don't have a link to QuickBooks, but
yeah, you can just Google those.
yeah, Google QuickBooks.
Okay, cool. Thanks guys. We'll talk to you later. Bye.